Wisconsin has center stage, and that stage is the frozen field turf at Camp Randall Stadium, clearing away the snow before the Wolverines arrive. Wisconsin is a perfect 10, 10-0 for the first time ever. And here on Bascom Hill, the site of Madison's first cemetery, the Badgers ready to bury the doubters. Those who say the schedule is too soft, the team is not worthy. And to bury that narrative, they have to bury Michigan. Oh, some are going to feast on cupcakes today, but Bucky is ready to open his house of pain. They won't ever slack up, so Punk, you better back up and get out of your seat and jump around.
ESPN College Game Day. We're coming to your city.
Good morning, Madison. Yeah.
There's no doubt how the GameDay crew makes them scream out loud to a packed house, the show that'll keep you on the edge of your seat, breaking down the matchup with powerhouse.
With Reese Corso, Des, David, and Kurt, you know ESPN is putting in that work. Like fourth and goal, get ready to play. It's time to kick off College Game Day.
We're coming to your city. If you want a little bang in your yin yang, if you want a little tang in your tang, if you want a little change in your chang chang, come along, yeah, yeah, we're coming to your city.
College Game Day, live from Madison, Wisconsin, is built by the Home Depot. Proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
Seriously, would you have it any other way? No, they wouldn't. Noon Eastern time, 11 local kickoff for Wisconsin against Michigan. The Badgers with an opportunity to make a statement. And these folks, a hearty lot, let me tell you, fueled by cheese curds and the finest brew in the Midwest. They'll start early. They'll stay late through the fifth quarter to hear that band perform in what they hope will be a victorious Saturday here in the Big Ten, and perhaps further stamp Wisconsin's status as a college football playoff contender. So glad to have you with us on this beautiful snowy morning from Madison.
Yeah.
Reese Davis, Kirk Herbstreit, Lee Corso, and Desmond Howard. And
Hey.
What do we got here? This is...
I set the NCAA record for layers. 7 layers.
I came in second place.
You're in second. You know what? It's colder here than it is inside Siberia. It's freezing here.
Des has got his layers.
Yeah, you know that.
That's your first A-segment hat, I think, in 22 years.
Right.
And our friend the Bear's
Yeah,
got
look
his.
at that.
Oh, we got here, Bear.
That's worth the price of admission right there.
There you
that
go.
look right there. Bear's got the toboggan
Bear's got
going.
it all.
And if you noticed an improvement over our last big snow site last year in Kalamazoo, Western Michigan, Bears got guard from the wind there.
Exactly.
Didn't last time. Now, you know what? We've had Saturdays before that had a schedule that looked really as soft as this one, only one game matching ranked opponents. When we had it last November, you know what happened?
Upsets.
Half of the top 10 got beat. Three of them on their home field. #1 team, formerly Georgia, now #7, going back in action today, Herbie.
Well, Georgia and Kentucky, one of those games where Georgia last week obviously had their struggles. They couldn't run the football. I mean, they struggled to be able to establish the run and put all on Jake Fromm. And now they're going up against a Kentucky team. Mark Stoops, their team had 7 wins this year. They're going to look to stop the run and create some turnovers themselves. Benny Snell, what a year he's had, over 1,000 yards. They'll look to slow him down. One thing that you know, Georgia's defense was good last week. They'll be even better today.
How about Miami? Miami's quarterback, Malik Rozier, led the Kings offense against Notre Dame. He had over 130 yards passing and ran for a touchdown. He's the leader of the balanced offense. They shouldn't have any problem with Virginia at home.
Hey, guys, how about the big battle on the West Coast? Herbie, you're calling this game USC versus UCLA. You're going to see 2 of the top passers in all of college football, and Sam Darnold, that man right there, completing 63% of his passes for 24 touchdowns. In the chosen Josh Rosen, UCLA. A lot of arm talent in this game. Kirk, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Should be. How about this? FIU and FAU. Lane Kiffin has the Owls on fire right now. You see the running game is Devin Singletary, their ability to throw the ball with Jason Driscoll, very balanced. Butch Davis, FIU, even though they're coming off a loss, very confident team. They play very physical run defense. We'll see if they can get things going, throwing the ball with Magoo to Thomas Owens. Potentially a shootout there as well, Des.
That's true.
I don't think we're getting a shootout here. Michigan and Wisconsin. Brandon Peters, this is a quiet dude, but he's going to have to make some noise with his arm. And when he's got this kind of chance, cannot miss it. Not against this team, because this defense will eat you up. Leon Jacobs and old Joe Ferguson, too, whose granddaddy used to do a little coaching in these parts. And, of course, there's Jonathan Taylor, the quintessential Badger back, 4th in the nation in rushing. They'll be challenging that strong interior Michigan D. Paul Christ with Tom Rinaldi.
Paul, with so much still sitting out there, how do you think Michigan will test this group in a way they haven't faced yet?
Well, I think we'll be tested because it's a really good football team. You know, certainly really good football players, and I think in really good schemes. You know, so it's a well-coached football team that's talented. That's a challenge in itself.
A lot of times when we see teams on a winning streak, for some reason it gets harder to win the longer you go. Why?
Well, I think that I think it's hard every week, honestly, and you just want your players to kind of be in that moment that is that week and enjoy the opportunity that is getting to play a game. And this one is a big game for a lot of reasons. You know, it's a big game because it's our seniors' last game. It's a big game because it's against Michigan, and that's always going to be a big game. And so you want them just to appreciate, enjoy the opportunity that is playing the game, and then you got to play the whole season out. And at the end, what did you earn? But in the meantime, enjoy that journey that is the season.
Good luck. We appreciate the time, Paul.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Paul, Tom, thank you very much. And look, Wisconsin already has a spot in the Big Ten championship game. This game has no bearing on it, but a huge bearing in terms of their playoff positioning. There's only one ranked matchup today, as we mentioned. Georgia and Notre Dame got thumped. They're trying to bounce back this week. Georgia probably in better position in terms of playoff, controlling its destiny. Notre Dame would have to be ridiculous chaos. And as Kirk mentioned, Florida Atlantic trying to improve to 7-0. And should Lane Kiffin and the Owls win, they'd get a chance to host the Conference USA Championship game against North Texas. So, look, there are playoff implications, and there are other teams that are facing maybe lesser tests. What is it that you think that you can find out about a team on a day like this, and who are you looking at?
Well, I think, first of all, you brought up a great point about last year. It was one of those weeks where you just didn't have a lot of great matchups, and then there were a lot of upsets. Why is that? See, Wisconsin has Michigan. They don't have to worry about the mindset. They're going to be fired up when they come out of the tunnel. But a team like Miami's had back-to-back weeks where the stadium's been sold out. Eyes of America are on them. Can they beat Virginia Tech? They felt a little bit disrespected. They came out and showed they could. The next week, Notre Dame. Oh, there's no way they can beat Notre Dame. Dominated Notre Dame. A lot of energy. This week and next week, for me, I'm going to learn more about Miami's maturity, their ability to handle prosperity, and this is one of those weeks they need to avoid coming out and just take, oh, it's Virginia, no problem. They need to show up the same intensity these last couple weeks.
The two best defenses in the Big Ten, Michigan and Wisconsin, play today. It should be a low-scoring game. In fact, People in Las Vegas, the friends, say this will be the lowest scoring game of all today.
Oh, really?
The lowest scoring game.
Wow.
Man, can you imagine that?
Yeah, when you look at the defenses and you look at these conditions, you will have to agree with the people in Vegas.
Yeah.
But this is a big stage for Wisconsin. I mean, people all year long have been criticizing them. They haven't played anybody. They don't respect their defense because of the opponents. This is their moment right now to come out this afternoon and play against a Michigan Wolverines team that people respect. I think this is going to go a long way in determining what happens with Wisconsin nationally, how people perceive them as a team.
Do they have to win a certain way today in order to change that perception?
I think they do. I really do. I think it has to be a convincing win. If it's, it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. If it comes down to a field goal at the end, they just squeak out a victory. I think people still have them kind of on the fence, Kirk. I don't think people will be as convincing because Michigan isn't like bringing to the table what they normally bring to the table.
But I think last week, if we were talking about this, and I know we're going to talk about the rankings later in the show, but I just think Notre Dame's loss last week put Wisconsin in a different light. They're sitting there at 5. They've got Michigan. They've got Minnesota. And then they got a Big Ten championship game. And if it's Ohio State and they beat Ohio State and they're 13-0, at this point, I don't think there's any. I think they control their own destiny, whether they win 2-0 today or 35-0.
I agree with that. They do control their own destiny.
I was bringing up the point. All they got to do is win.
They win.
Keep winning and keep winning and keep winning. Put the pressure on the committee.
If they keep winning, the committee cannot deny Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
And the path is there, too. I think that's pretty important. There was a tangible way to see the path being blocked prior to the Notre Dame loss, and it doesn't seem that exists right now. Now, you know weather's going to be a factor here. We already had the snow falling this morning. But look at all of these games that will be impacted by weather. Texas, West Virginia, it's already pouring in Morgantown. That's at noon on ESPN. A&M and Ole Miss is going to be very windy. Illinois and Ohio State, I don't think the wind or the rain will help Illinois at all. And I'm told right now that Navy and Notre Dame's going to have to watch out for lightning. We've seen several games over the course of this season delayed for long periods of time by lightning. Most notable was Penn State and Michigan State. That sort of changed the way that game was going. And a lot of windy games here in the Big 12.
All the games you just showed, it's all wind. It's not just snow and the rain. It's dealing with 20 to 25 mile an hour winds.
But they're not that important, those games. Not like this one.
Well,
okay. But they're important.
If you're a ranked team,
not like
important.
this one. They're important, though. They are important games.
They game this win.
Pitching it around in the wind sometimes is more difficult than anything else.
Special teams, too.
Oh, yeah. Watch those punts.
Exactly.
Find them
Yes,
up there.
sir.
See how
Yes,
they go.
sir.
This is also rivalry day for a lot of the other divisions, too. You have Harvard and Yale playing. You know Yale can clinch the outright Ivy League title for the first time since 1980.
Wow.
Outright.
Oh, yeah.
Harvard can spoil it. And by the way, I've been wanting to mention this for a few weeks. There's a young man in his first game at Harvard early this season. Ben Abercrombie, a freshman, suffered a spinal injury. He's rehabbing in Shepherd Center in Atlanta. He's doing well. We're happy about that. He's going to be rooting that Hartford Crimson on against Yale this afternoon. So our best going out to him as you enjoy that. Lehigh and Lafayette also playing today. The most played rivalry in college football. Coming up inside College Game Day. So who wants to coach in the SEC? A lot of vacancies, some available, maybe more coming. We'll sort that out in just a little bit. Also out on College Game Day, Jen Latta has a remarkable and heart-wrenching story of a 14-year-old son of Navy's offensive coordinator and how he has become the inspiration to the Middies.
Regardless of what happened today on the field, today's the win. Jared Jasper's here.
Remarkable story that will tug at your heartstrings for sure. And Lane Kiffin joins us for a conversation. Tom Rinaldi sits down with the FAU coach to hear about what's changed for him as a head coach as he has had great success. Lost here at Wisconsin, but has done well otherwise. Have the Owls. Sunshine Scooter.
Nice beanie.
Snowman Scooter with a beanie.
Get the bear over there.
With a bear.
The bear's back.
Get a bear.
College Game Day is built by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. And in part by AT&T.
State championship games in Camp Randall last night. That's the Kimberly Papermakers who beat Sun Prairie 27-7. That's their 5th straight state championship.
How about that?
They've won 70 in a row, Herbie.
Ooh. Montgomery Bell, big win back in Nashville.
I was just about to ask you. Montgomery Bell win last night?
14-7. Montgomery Well, big win over Christian Brothers, undefeated.
Led by the Herb Street.
Congratulations. There we go.
Wheels Up Fly Cam showing you the scene here on Bascom Hill. Our good friend Kenny Dichter right up here on stage watching College Game Day and enjoying himself here. And we're enjoying having everybody as well. Check out the Coca-Cola Refresh section, which offers fans the best seats from which to enjoy College Game Day. Those two are all layered up, just like us, as David Pollock joins us here. Got the scarf working.
Yeah, it's the only time you'll ever see me in a scarf.
I know you played the SEC. Did you like playing the cold weather? Did you like it?
I didn't mind it. He didn't mind it. I went to Cincinnati and played with the Bengals, and we didn't have an indoor facility. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of got used to it pretty quick.
Exactly.
Do some snow angels.
Yeah. See what you can do. All right, today, Georgia's trying to bounce back after losing against Auburn. You know, we want Bama has become the ubiquitous cry of the bold in college football. But you know who's telling the truth about that? Georgia. I'm sure Georgia wants Bama because based on what we saw last week, they don't want any more of Auburn. Tigers absolutely took them apart. That game had no effect on Georgia's spot in the SEC championship game. They'll play either the Tide or the Tigers, depending on what happens. But Kirby Smart worried about that old-fashioned fanny paddling last week, not only leaving a mark on their rear ends, but on their psyche as they get ready for the Cats.
It was not a pretty one for Georgia tonight. It was all Tigers as Auburn wins it 40-17.
It's a wake-up call. That's not the identity. That's not the look we wanted to show people. We've had a great season so far. We plan on keeping the thing going.
One loss doesn't define our season. Everything we wanted to accomplish is in front of us.
They'll respond the right way. They're made of the right stuff, and the focus for us is totally on Big Blue because we got to go out there and stop these guys.
It really shocked me that we lost. Ready to get back out there, so we proved there wasn't the Georgia that was supposed to be out there last week.
Well, Georgia has to try to find. Do you think Georgia got exposed last week, or is it one of those games that snowballed and got away from them?
I think it snowballed and got away from them, but I also think when it comes that easy throughout the season, I mean, the Notre Dame game was the only time since then that they've trailed, period, and everything's come easy. And you could tell, I think the moment got a little bit too big for them, and once it got away, at Jordan-Hare. Here's the thing. When you get on the road and it starts getting away and you got all these freshman guys that are contributing, especially at the quarterback spot, it's hard to get it back. You haven't learned that part yet, how to counterpunch. So it got away, the penalties, the mistakes, special teams, all that stuff, and it was a bad performance.
You know this, Alabama deals with it every year. Now Kirby Smart and Georgia had to deal with it, that big bullseye of being #1, being undefeated. And as much as you try to downplay that, there's still stress there that they've had to deal with. The great thing is, I hate to say this, is a loss sometimes can allow you to get refocused. And it's a second life. And it's an opportunity to play with a different edge and a different appreciation. I would be shocked if Georgia doesn't play like that today. Right. A new appreciation for where they are, still controlling their own destiny, still in a position, just like Clemson last year. Clemson, they kind of danced around with it, finally lost, came out with a new edge. I expect that from Georgia starting today.
I think Georgia ran into the perfect recipe for disaster last week. I mean, you can see that coming.
Sure.
Going into that stadium against that defense, and they were going to get exposed, you know, especially with a quarterback, as a freshman quarterback with Fromm. But I think it's the best thing to happen to him because now you can go back, self-evaluate, self-scout, and now you can start to correct your mistakes. Look at where your weaknesses are because you still can control your own destiny. This group, I think, is going to come out encouraged. I think they're going to have new life. I like the fact that they lost last week the way that they did, and now they can self-scout and self-evaluate and start to correct those mistakes and get ready now for the SEC championship game.
I think the problem was some of the problems they might see in the self-scout can't be fixed with these guys. I mean, they got steamrolled on both lines of scrimmage. You know?
That's the thing. 46 yards rushing, and their offense is predicated, much like Notre Dame against Miami, on being able to run the football to set up Jake Fromm and throw on their terms. 46 yards rushing, 3 of 14 on third down. You can't put Fromm as a young quarterback in 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8. You just can't. Well, so they've got to be able to play action on early downs, run the football, and avoid those third and long.
Well, how about you're not going to get any new personnel? But what you do is you have to figure out a schematic approach now to help the personnel that you have and the weaknesses that you've been exposed.
You know, you guys keep talking about how a loss can focus teams.
Yeah.
How focused does Tennessee feel right now?
They got 2 minutes. We're talking about one loss.
Man, We're talking about Brady Hoke is the new Tennessee coach for now. The former Michigan boss, the interim coach after Butch Jones was mercifully fired. Vols play LSU today. Tennessee has a losing streak, or at least lost a mass meeting against every team in the SEC. And joining us now is Paul Feinbaum, always has his finger on the pulse in the SEC. Paul, you and I talked back in the offseason, and I said that barring a complete meltdown, it would be a mistake for Tennessee to fire Butch Jones. I was wrong. Of course, they did have that meltdown. What does Tennessee need to do now?
They need to calm down, Reese. I was in Knoxville Thursday, and from the moment I landed until the moment I left, the conversation was about John Gruden. But unless something dramatically changes, John Gruden is not going to be the coach. So what happens next? Keep your eye on one man. He's not a coach, but he's a Tennessee graduate. He is Jimmy Sexton, the most powerful agent in the country, and I think he really controls where they go. He represents Saban. He's not leaving, of course, but he does represent people like Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen is a very serious candidate. Also, think about some other Jimmy Sexton clients like Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher is being wooed by his former bosses at LSU, Scott Woodward, to A&M. That opening not yet open, but I think he could also be in play. There are many other possibilities, but Tennessee needs a proven head coach. They don't need to go the Butch Jones route. They don't need to go the Derek Dooley route. They have failed. Now, of course, the wildest story I've heard all day is Lane Kiffin. He's not going to Tennessee, but it would be quite a dramatic story, would it not?
That would be the ultimate in forgive and forget. Paul, who's the favorite? Is it Mullen?
I think it is. Now, again, Mullen is in play at Florida. We've seen the names down there, Chip Kelly and Scott Frost. I don't think that's necessarily where he goes, although his former boss, Scott Strickland, is the new AD. But there are a number of Tennessee people who are trying to coalesce around Dan Mullen right now. There's still some infighting in East Tennessee.
All right, Paul Feinbaum from Athens, where Georgia will take on Kentucky. Paul, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Reese.
SEC Nation coming up on the SEC Network. It's not just Tennessee. I mean, you're looking at situations in the SEC at Ole Miss. Arkansas just fired their athletic director. What does that mean for Brett Bielema, the former Wisconsin coach?
What? Say it again.
He was perfect here.
You know what?
It was great for you guys.
When you spurn the fans, they never forget. Now,
okay. 3 straight Rose Bowls.
Yeah, he did. They should be grateful for Brett.
Great here.
When you look at this, if you were in Tennessee, let's start with Tennessee and then Florida. Who should Tennessee target first? Who'd you target?
I personally would target Chip Kelly. I mean, no matter where.
Either way, Tennessee or Florida?
I don't care if it's UTEP. I mean, if you got a chance to go and get Chip Kelly, I personally would do that and see if he was a viable candidate. I think the interesting aspect here, because of all these jobs, and then talk about possibly A&M and Arkansas and Ole Miss, obviously potentially all these opening up. And now Jimbo Fisher may be leaving Florida State to go to Texas A&M. Now Florida State opens. And there's rumors that Jim Harbaugh may leave Michigan and go to the NFL. What if Michigan opens up? So I think December 20th, it's the first time ever we've had an early signing period.
Yeah.
And these ADs, I think, feel a sense of urgency unlike ever before. So there's not only the amount of openings, but that early signing period. They want to get started. They want to get their fresh start first and not lose out on Chip Kelly or Scott Frost or Dan Mullen or whoever it is. So it's an interesting cat and mouse game going on right now with everybody that's in play. And by the way, there's things that are happening at A&M and at all these schools that still have head coaches with the agent, with the athletic director that no one even knows about. That would never happen.
No. That would never happen while somebody has a job. You know, the interesting name for me, and you say Chip Kelly and you say home run. You know, I'll be very curious to see where Chip Kelly goes, and I'll be very curious to see what it looks like, because I think he was so far ahead of the times with the tempo and the
GPS.
technology and the GPS, the diet and nutrition.
Sleep.
I'll be very curious to see how he changed, because last time we saw him, he struggled in the NFL. He struggled very much with defensive linemen that were very good. You think about him coming to the SEC with great defensive linemen, great athletes. I don't think Chip Kelly, to me, is as big as a home run as a lot of people feel.
Yeah. Well, I think that I would kick the tires and test Bob Stoops.
Yeah, you mean Florida specifically or anywhere?
No, Tennessee, Florida. I think he's too young to retire. He's 57 years old. He has a lot of coaching left in him. He ran a really good program down in Norman. He's well respected. For sure. And I believe he's going to want to get back into the game. So I would actually try to kick the tires and see if Bob Stoops has an interest. Somebody that's off the radar, but it's an excellent coach.
You're not doing your duty if you don't at least ask. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
think he's made it really. Yeah, he's made it really clear that the answer is going to be no, but you got to ask. I think one of the things that's difficult now is that guys are making money a lot of places. I mean, maybe Mullen is in place, but he's making a lot of money at Mississippi State. Bear, do you have coaching odds that you put up on the Bears bank board there?
Well, you know what's
favorites, underdogs.
You know what's interesting? You touched on Arkansas and Brett Bielema. You know, if the Arkansas job opens up, the listed favorite in some sites to take that job would be Gus Malzahn. Which that would create a major domino effect. So I wonder if that does open up and maybe the Malzahn rumors happen. If I'm one of those head coaches out there, maybe I wait and see if that happens, and then the Auburn job opens up, and maybe that creates a domino effect in other places.
And why would that be, Reese? Why would he be the name for that job?
Well, here's the reason Gus would be a name for that. First, he's from Arkansas, and he had the great success in the high school ranks there. But the other thing is, hey, look, let's be honest about this. Every time he loses a game,
fire him.
Gus is on the hot seat. He beats Georgia by 1,000. Okay, we like Gus again. Oh, no,
that's tough.
You know,
that's a tough sled.
You know, at some point you go.
Let me tell you one thing. Jim, he's not leaving Ann Arbor.
Good.
Oh, you want to get that one?
He's not leaving Ann Arbor.
Good.
Yeah. Ever?
Good. I hope he never leaves.
Never say never, ever.
We know that Harbaugh will be on the sidelines here at Camp Randall today to lead Michigan against Wisconsin.
That's
no time soon. Also here with us in Madison this morning is Maria Taylor. Maria, you got the snow slowing down for us?
Yeah, and I feel like it just started pouring down way more than it was 2 seconds ago, just because you tossed to me, Reese. But we're going to handle the weather over here without heated blankets or heaters on the demo field. And coming up next on College Game Day, we're going to see how Wisconsin would stack up against a one-loss team as we welcome in a former College Football Playoff Committee member to discuss those Badgers who are undefeated but sitting right outside the top 4. And we've seen some horrible, horrendous, amazing moments, and you had one job so far this season. No kicker is safe. Me and David will discuss some of the best moments coming up next. And tonight, tune in to Sports Center at 1:30 a.m. Eastern on ESPN. Find out who Mel Kiper thinks is the better NFL prospect, Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold. And NBA Saturday Night Hoops, a closer look at James Harden's historic hot streak. That's Sports Center with Linda Cohn and Kevin Connors on ESPN and the ESPN app. So much more coming your way from Madison, Wisconsin. Stay tuned. College Game Day. We'll be right back.
Des, just watch me over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. College Game Day. Look who's rolling into Camp Randall.
It's raining.
On Wisconsin. The Badgers headed into the stadium at 11 a.m. local time kickoff, high noon for Wisconsin and Michigan today, in this great opportunity for the Badgers to make a college football playoff statement. Crowd here on Bascom Hill. Look here, here they are. Dealing with the elements. Had snow earlier, now it's changed to rain a little bit. We're going to exercise our toughness, at least to some degree. Come out here and work on the demo field. Here's what the college football playoff looks like at the moment. The top 8, Alabama, Clemson, Miami, Oklahoma, with Wisconsin, Auburn, and Georgia, followed by Notre Dame, rounding out the top 8. Among that group, it would appear Notre Dame would be the one that would be least likely to wind up among the 4 in the college football playoff, and everyone is vying for this piece of hardware, the College Football Playoff National Championship Trophy, presented by Dr. Pepper, that will be claimed in Atlanta after the national championship game. We're pleased to be joined out here in the elements, just the way you like in the Big Ten, by Barry Alvarez. Barry, of course.
Hey, Reese, exercising some toughness over here? I mean, come on. We're under a tree, dude. Big drops falling down over here. Man, Alvy. It's not, Reese, it's not covering Alvy. It's covering you. Just to be clear.
Barry, not only you athletic director here, as they chant Barry for Mr. Alvarez, the godfather of this Wisconsin resurgence has been going on for 30 years now. Barry, you also served on the College Football Playoff Committee, and Wisconsin undefeated. There's been a lot of talk about it. From your perspective as a former committee member, which carries more weight, a team with that 0 in the loss column, or maybe a team that's lost a game but has played a stronger schedule?
I would say at the end, when it's all said and done, if a team's sitting there with 0, gone undefeated, and won their championship in a Power 5, you can't keep them out. I don't see how you can. It's hard to go undefeated.
Yeah.
There's a reason that 0 is meaningful.
But, Al, if you put yourself in that room the last 3 years, and you and I talked about this, if there's a team out there that plays, let's say, 8, 9 ranked teams, and they lose a game along the way, and another team, Iowa was an example of that a few years ago. They didn't play any ranked teams until they got into their bowl game. You still think that championship outweighs a team that had to go through 8 games, 3 of which were on the road? And I'm not using Wisconsin as an example because Wisconsin's in if they went out.
Right.
I'm just saying in general, if it was Oklahoma State we're talking about.
You go through your league, and you play 9 games in the league.
Yep.
Yeah. You have 3-week non-conference games. It's hard. Every week you're a different team. You're going to play poorly sometimes. You're going to have the ball bounce. And to have it all fall right to go undefeated, I think it's hard to keep them out.
Although Wisconsin has one of the worst strength of schedules, I think, personally, if they go undefeated and win the Big Ten title, you can't keep them out of there. Is that right?
Alabama, us, Miami. You have 3 left that are undefeated.
Yeah.
That's all. I've been hearing since the first week, if they run the table, since the first week. Well, there are only 3 that have a chance.
Yeah.
So you can't keep them out if they do.
You know, and beyond Wisconsin, I think another thing that the committee potentially may have to deal with, Desmond, is how blowout losses are handled. You've had Ohio State, which potentially could wind up Big Ten champion, not popular here. But they have a 30-point loss on their resume. Georgia's got a 23-point loss. Right. How do you evaluate, how much weight does that carry to you? How much should it carry when evaluating teams?
That carries a lot of weight for me. You know, I look at style points and I look at momentum, and I think that a lot of people go back to games in September, and teams can be totally different in November than they were in September.
Absolutely.
And if the team is getting better and they're blowing teams out, even though they may have had a tough or a big loss in September, that shouldn't hold as much weight as the way they're steamrolling teams in November. So that means a lot to me, style points, but also momentum and what I'm seeing currently.
And we saw it with Ohio State in 2014. The Virginia Tech loss, they didn't look great. Everybody says they're out, and they're not. And, you know, I think one thing that people realize when you play the game is the hardest thing to do in college football is go on the road and win. It is so hard. I mean, when you're in the committee room, do y'all talk about that? Do y'all talk about going on the road and the atmosphere and just
absolutely
what that
absolutely.
entails?
That's a key factor, talking about where you won the game, how you won the game. You know, I look back at us, and I know you don't get much credit for Nebraska. That night in Lincoln, Nebraska was as tough an atmosphere as you're going to find any place. It was a tough and a great win, I thought. But they go on and don't have a good season. You don't get much credit for that. Yeah. But you're exactly right. Tough on the road is meaningful.
But losing on the road 27-24 versus losing 55-24, does the committee consider that? Is that like an anchor potentially?
Good losses do not count.
Right.
That's what I found. A good
loss is a loss.
Doesn't count.
Right.
You got to win.
Yeah.
A good loss is meaningless.
You said last night, you said that losses can't just disappear. No matter, they can't just disappear. All right, let me put this scenario to you in terms of how it should be evaluated and the importance on conference championships. What if you have a 2-loss conference champion vying for a spot against a 1-loss non-champion, like we had last year, really, with Penn State and Ohio State?
Then I think that's where your analytics come in. That's where you really break it down and see which one you really think is the best team. And there are criteria that you take a look at when everything else is even, that you take a look at all those other things to make the decision.
They talk about it, the committee does, the eyeball test, right? I've been on the sideline and seen all 4 of the top teams and 9 of the top 13 teams. Let me give you my eyeball test. Alabama, the best all-around team. Miami, great speed. Clemson, good athletes. Oklahoma can score against anybody. What do you think about the eyeball test?
What do I think about the eyeball test? I like to watch them on film. I want to see who's sound. Well, you have to look. You have to do that. You have to watch the teams. You have to be able to see how they play. Are they sound?
Sure.
How they will match up. Absolutely, you have to look at that.
I agree with you, and I'm big on the eyeball test. One thing I wanted to ask you, as a former committee member, if there was one thing that you could change, what would that one thing be?
Ooh.
It's a Rinaldi question right there, man. Look, he's stumped.
That's too deep. Should give me that last week.
It's It's raining on the side set. You got to answer me tough questions.
What are you doing? Think I'm a Michigan grad?
That just stays right. You know what the answer is for most people? I'm not sure I agree with it, but the answer is expand the playoff. You know, like they do in the lower. I'm not for that, but think about this of what can happen with a bigger playoff. Austin Peay earlier this year had a 29-game losing streak going into the year, and now they have a chance today against Eastern Illinois. They might make the FCS playoffs if they win. Right. But I still don't think it's better.
It's going on right now. It's right now.
Well, go to 6 or 8.
He's not for expansion. Coach is not for expansion. Yeah, I've seen him on YouTube talk about that.
And we talk about all the other, you know, letting so many other people. And quite frankly, there's so much parity right now. There are a lot of teams that potentially could win it. Yeah. But we're forgetting about the players. Ask anybody that's played in that championship game after 12 regular season games, a playoff game, a semi, and a final. Those, they're worn out.
Look at the injuries. Look at the injuries right now affecting the game.
Exactly right. Not only that, we got to think about the players, too.
Yes, sir. I love the exclusivity of making it hard to get into the playoff. Barry, thanks for coming out and braving the elements. Best of luck today.
Hey, Kurt, share the umbrella over there, man. Come on.
See if Herbie's able to give him a little love with that umbrella and help Barry out a little bit. College football playoff top 25 ranking show comes your way Tuesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. It is the exclusive unveiling of the rankings. We don't see those rankings until you do. And here in Madison this morning, you know, got early kickoff. You got to get busy and make sure that all the tailgating is going on. The Home Depot tailgating chef is getting busy. That's our buddy Labreglio over there getting some business done. He knows his tailgating stuff, and he does very well. I didn't know you could grill a pretzel. That's pretty impressive. Turnover chain, it has become all the rage, but is there a trap that is being set by a toaster against a turnover chain? And Lane Kiffin, head coach at FAU, sits down with Rinaldi to talk about his past and his future.
Young coaches don't listen to this, but I don't really think before I tweet. I take 5 seconds and just send it off, and I like seeing reactions. I like making people laugh.
Countdown to Kickoff is brought to you by Coca-Cola Zero Sugar. Real Coca-Cola taste. 0 sugar, 0 calories.
I know this is going to sound a little corny. I love these people that love this game so much. They come out no matter what the weather, no matter what the time, to show how they love their team. What a scene we have here in Madison on this huge day for their beloved Badgers as they try to make a statement in the college football playoff race. They've already locked up a spot in the Big Ten championship game. I think polar opposite in weather would be in Miami. You know, if Hard Rock Stadium was intoxicating last Saturday night, it might feel more like the morning after a tequila bender today. Noon kick, tickets on StubHub, about $20, but a near sellout, they say. Is the U back? Virginia coming in. Remember what Virginia did to them to close down the old horseshoe in Little Havana? November 10th, 2007. Jameel Sewell to Maurice Covington. No Canes can get him down. And then Matt Bosher blocked. Oh, that double thud. Special teams hate to hear that. Virginia just absolutely destroyed Miami that night. Crushed them 48-0. Chris Cook took it all the way in for the touchdown and the exclamation point, and it was sort of that game in many ways that spawned largely a decade of wandering in the wilderness, only to be led close to the brink of the promised land by the turnover chain. The Canes lead the Power 5 in turnover margin, and the chain, emblematic of Miami's swag, carrier of mystical ball-hawking powers, and today it meets Virginia's brave little toaster. The Cavs started putting a toaster in the locker room to make it smell like home. Toasting will commence 30 minutes before the Cavaliers arrive in the locker room today. Of course, they just hope that they don't exit Hard Rock smelling of burned toast.
Delivers a dart, intercepted. Trajan Bandy, the true freshman. Miami
announcing itself as very strong playoff contenders.
Every time you look at the film of an opponent, it just immediately gets you back grounded to know we got our work cut out for us.
Outside of this building, we can't control much. So, you know, there's no different vibe, there's no different tempo, different intensity. We're doing what we've been doing all season.
We can't follow because we just beat two really good teams. And so our mindset has to be the same because we're still 9-0, we're undefeated. Every team is a threat now. Everybody's looking to knock us off. And that one loss could change our whole season.
Look at the Badgers here. Real chain is made of solid Big Ten gold. T.J. Edwards, I think, said that Wisconsin needed like a turnover cheese platter. Now, Herbie, you didn't believe me about the toaster, did you?
No, I did not. Make it.
There it is.
Wow. Make it smell like home?
Yeah, they felt like that they did well in the practice facility, but didn't play as well during the game, so they wanted it to smell like home.
Okay.
That toaster actually, the first one burned up. They had to buy a new one at a Walmart in Boise. I kid you not. Sometimes I find out too much for my own good.
It's the little thing. It's the little thing.
This is what the Canes have in front of them. Virginia started off hot. They've struggled a bit at late. Big opportunities to win going into that ACC championship game, which is already set against Clemson. I think it's been really interesting as we've all discussed this week about what you're looking for. You have been adamant about finding out about Miami today. What are you going to say?
Well, Mark Richt knows about this, but these players, this is new. This is uncharted waters for them. And Braxton Berrios and all these players can talk about, listen, it's the same like we've done every week. We're ready. We respect our opponent. But it's just until you go out on the field and you feel that it feels different than the last 2 weeks. Listen, this is a team that struggled to close off against Georgia Tech, a bad Florida State team, North Carolina. They were close calls. Now, to their credit, they won those games. But Mark Richt would be the first one to tell you. They have played with a newfound energy against Notre Dame and against Virginia Tech. And now that the stakes are higher after those games, my point is, how do they handle that success? Do they still, is it a business-like approach? I'm very excited to see Miami today against this team that they're clearly better than.
There's no letdown for Miami.
Okay, good.
Why? And the two reasons. Number one, they're a hungry team. They want to win it. And two, their leader is a coach that's got to prove something to somebody.
Yeah.
Georgia.
Two great things.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. But watch out. Next week it's Pitt, weather. That could be a sneaker.
On the road,
half-empty stadium, Heinz Field.
Kind of like this type of atmosphere.
A lot of yellow shirts.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch out next week, not this week.
I don't think there'll be a letdown, but when you played the way they played a week ago, and then anything less than that performance, though, is kind of going to be criticized, you know, because that was such a dominant performance. If they come out here and they win the game by 17 points, is that an impressive enough victory for all this, you know, everyone who wants to speculate about them having a letdown? I think they have great senior leadership. And I think since the game you called the Virginia Tech game, second half moving forward to the Notre Dame game, the defense showed a great amount of maturity. Very impressive defense. And you know one thing, once you have a great defense, then your team follows your defense. I think they're going to be okay today. I think they'll be okay against UVA.
The quarterback Malik Rozier with his father
had a stroke.
Had a stroke and had to kind of put that on the back burner for the game, and his team really rallied around him. There's something unique about this team that has been missing, and I think Mark Richt has been kind of the guy that's been creating this. When Malik Rozier makes a mistake, defense comes down, tells him, hey, man, we got your back. If the defense messes up, the offense comes down. I mean, those intangibles, you hope they come together. You really never know.
And remember one thing. They're playing for a coach that's got something to prove.
Yeah, that's a great point. Bear, how you feeling about this?
Well, let me throw this in. You know, his dad's supposed to come to the game today.
That's right.
Malik's dad. And so, Bear, are they going to cover today? They're going to get it?
I think the best thing that happened to Miami this week was being third in the standings. I still think that will give them the ability to drive with the feeling of disrespect. If they were second, maybe there's a little bit of, but I think the fact that they're third, we touched on it early in the, I mean, the way they started the year, the first month was basically a wash for them. I mean, it made sense that it took them a while to play their best ball, but I think the questions about being motivated and playing with
getting them motivated.
Yes, maybe. And I think they will come up 19 or 20. That's a lot of points, though.
Too many. How about since we're in the ACC, Georgia Tech and Duke, I see on your board here.
Well, two teams that Miami has beaten. Duke has lost 6 in a row. 4 of them have been by one possession. They got a great dress rehearsal last week, played Army. lost the game, but by one score again. Held their running game really in check. I liked the Jackets last week against Virginia Tech, and they won the game. This week, I like Duke. They need 2 wins to get bowl eligible. They can win today, win next week. Give me Duke at home.
So you go Georgia Tech last week, and
now we go
reverse going with Duke.
Exactly right.
And I love you. I don't want to get you. I don't want to get you upset.
Is that outright? You're going to kill my hat or something.
No, the hat looks good, but for the viewer at home, we got to show them your blankie. We got to show them the blankie.
Absolutely.
You're making sure the bear stays warm. No,
absolutely.
And it's plugged in, right?
It's plugged in, and he's swaddled like a newborn baby.
The legs are the problem. The legs are the problem right now because they don't move around.
We're good. Look at the bear swaddled over there.
Hey, Bear, get him off of you. There was one dude out there with an umbrella. One dude.
Exactly.
Yeah,
man.
And where's your air conditioner?
I don't have the AC.
You
would think so.
I am getting warm though.
Miami and Virginia, we'll see if the Bears right, see if it stays close enough, or if you're able to maybe lay those points in lamp. Virginia and Miami comes up at noon on ABC. That follows College Game Day. We saw that scene last week. And today we're not seeing that thing. There's a beautiful lake close by. You know, in the state of Florida, the balance of power has really changed. You know how the Seminoles have struggled. They've got Delaware State today. Got to win out to get bowl eligible. Florida's a mess, looking for a coach. They too are 3-6. UCF, what do you think about that? Still undefeated. They've got a tester at Temple. University of South Florida with just 1 loss. Miami is undefeated at 9-0, as you know. Florida International, by the way, yesterday, Butch Davis' 66th birthday. Happy birthday. And he'll take on FAU today. FAU now guided by Lane Kiffin. And as Tom Rinaldi joins us now, Tom, Lane Kiffin had this opportunity to maybe rehabilitate his reputation as a head coach.
Reese, bear with me here and play along. If I provided you a blind resume of a coach, he's 42 years old. He comes to a program that hasn't won more than 3 games in the last 3 years. He has them on a 6-game winning streak. He has them bowl eligible. He has them on the cusp of a conference championship game. You'd have 2 questions. How did he do it? And where's he going next? But when it's Lane Kiffin, given all he does, all he says, all he tweets, there are a lot more questions than that.
FAU, best start in school history. They'll be in the postseason for the first time since 2008.
How do you think the meaning of winning is different here, if at all, from the other places you've been?
The reaction to winning is what is so different. Peter Marshall, for the first time in school history, to be bowl eligible halfway through the year, it's just totally different than other places. Here at USC, we won 34 straight games. Left Alabama, we'd won 26 straight games. You know, you kind of get used to it.
The program needed an identity. The program's identity has largely been you.
He's here. This is his first game. You ever been to a game? Never.
First one.
A lot of first timers. I'm here for Lane Kiffin.
The Lane train, spinning around campus.
I thought it was funny.
Extra large Kiffin heads.
I was watching the game when you see him in the end zone, like when we were scoring all these touchdowns, like the heads are going back and forth. It was kind of like creepy.
How would you describe your relationship with Twitter?
I don't really think before I tweet. I take 5 seconds and just send it off, and I like seeing reactions. I like making people laugh.
What would you tell your players in terms of their use of Twitter?
Do as I say, not as I do.
You know, all that stuff you write about how good we are, and all that stuff they hear on ESPN, it's like poison, like rat poison.
Taking the rat poison comment by Nick Saban and making it your own personal hashtag.
I'm taking what the best motivator in all of college football does to motivate his team, and I'm using the same stuff in a different style.
How do you think your relationship with Saban is perceived, Lane?
Not well and wrong. The last 26 times we went on the field, 26-0. Did it take some getting used to by me? Was it rough at first? Yes, which is of my fault. He's the head coach, you know. You got to remember, prior to that, last time I was assistant coach was 6 straight years, and that was Pete Carroll. I think Nick Saban changed me. 3 years with him, the best in the world at what he does, and I got to sit there and learn. There's not a day goes by that there's not something that I don't draw out of my head of what would Coach Saban do.
There's a headline in the Tennessean newspaper this week, 5 reasons why Tennessee should hire Lane Kiffin back. What's your reaction when you hear that?
Time heals everything, I guess. That wasn't the reaction I remember when those couches were burning. So I was sneaking out with the cops to the airport.
What is success beyond here?
You gotta, what can you do right now? And I didn't used to be like that. I used to be, how fast can I get the biggest job? What if you made this much money? What if you had this house? And I missed the ride. That's what I'm trying to tell our players and coaches now. Enjoy what you're in right now. You're doing something that's not supposed to be done.
Lane Kiffin can say it over and over again, but the speculation continues to swirl, guys. Just this week on Twitter, someone reached out to him to ask, do you have any old Tennessee shirts or hats that we can use to sweeten the pot to bring our own John Gruden to coach Tennessee? Of course, Kiffin couldn't let that go. He had to engage Reese and said, yes, I do. Address? Question mark. We'll have to see what's next for Lane Kiffin, but we know this, the present looks pretty strong.
That's for sure, Tom. As we mentioned earlier, if Florida Atlantic can win that game today, they'd get a spot in the Conference USA Championship game against North Texas. And here's what they've done in conference play. Remember, they came here to Wisconsin, lost, and Wisconsin sort of opened their arms while the hurricane was threatening, and FAU stayed here for a while. Once they've got into conference play, huge turnaround under Lane Kiffin, and that also includes taking care of the football. Taking care of the football, both literally with no turnovers, and the football aspect of coaching is not the problem. Here's the issue. Under what circumstances, we talked about job openings, would you hire Lane Kiffin?
Just listening to that interview, I think it's a microcosm of concerns that athletic directors have, because if you're just talking about coaching football, he's a mastermind. A savant almost when it comes to recognizing. He's known for his ability to work with quarterbacks and throw, yet you look what he's done with the team he's inherited. He's running the football. They're balanced with Singletary running the ball. So there's never been a question about him as a football coach. I think it's more about the leadership, the intangibles. Him saying right there with Tom Rinaldi, I kind of tweet, and I don't really think much about it. I like being funny.
Right.
And his attempt at being funny to an athletic director comes across as immature. And is this the guy that I want to put in charge? So if I were to give him any advice, I would say keep doing what you're doing as a coach.
Right.
And maybe change your ways as far as trying to be funny, because I don't think athletic directors with his past think that that's very funny.
I tell you what, as I watched that piece by Rinaldi, you used 2 words. You said savant, and then you said immature. And to me, Lane Kiffin, you're in elementary school, you got a kid that's really, really smart, so he finishes his work very early, but he has a lot of energy, so he's kind of disruptive to the class because he has an active imagination. He's not going to sit there and doodle to himself. He's going to, mess with kids around him, distraction to the teacher. That's Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin grew up to be that person. And because he has that immaturity, but he's a savant, in my opinion, you have to be an AD like Barry Alvarez, like a strong-minded, strong personality AD to hire and be able to manage someone like Lane Kiffin. Because if not, he'll run over an AD, and he'll disrupt your program. Brilliant coach, but he needs an AD that's strong, coach.
All I know is his first year, he took a team from 3-9 to 7-2. And listen to this. You guys aren't going to believe this. He's got more wins than he has more wins than Florida and Florida State combined.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I tell you what, he can coach.
Yeah,
There's no question.
Yep.
But the fact that he himself pointed out that little fact and the way in which he did is the reason people still have questions, So we'll see how it goes. Maybe a little more time has to pass to prove a little bit of the maturity, but he's certainly doing a wonderful job this year. Miami is unbeaten, and the Hurricanes are there. I'm going to tell you, go to challenge what the crowd was going to look like in Hard Rock. I think they're feeling the turnover.
It's supposed to be a sellout.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be a sellout.
They said,
Exactly.
Yeah, they sold out now? They were close. And finished?
Yeah,
finished it off, they said.
Hey,
Hey, congratulations.
Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff.
It's $20 a ticket. It was $200 last week.
Yeah.
That makes a difference.
Hey, give away free if they'll show up.
Hey, be careful of the big upset. Mercer, can they follow a basketball upset with a football one? And what a story about Jaron Jasper, 14-year-old son of Navy's offensive coordinator who is fighting for his life.
They're doing a procedure, they were almost done, and his heart stopped. And then come to find out, you know, that at one point during the procedure, he was gone.
You guys ready for a big day? Started this morning with game day. 5th quarter to celebrate later. I think they're out and ready to go.
Let's go. Get them off, will ya?
Said the man with the umbrella.
I would be out there.
There's old Bucky braving the weather. Still to come on College Game Day. The last time we saw just one ranked matchup in November. Five top 10 teams got knocked off by unranked opponents. Could it be whack job today? And the past is part of the present here in Madison for Paul Christ, who is influenced by the teachings of his late father, Coach George Christ. You'll want to see this story from Gene Wojciechowski, and we're closing in on the Heisman, right? Now it's Baker Mayfield. Before it was Saquon Barkley. How will the Heisman race shake out? Good Jonathan Taylor chased down a few votes in the Heisman Trophy race. That got him. We knew it would be something. Big Ten weather here in the heart of the Wisconsin campus, Bascom Hill, on this spectacular setting. Great institution. As you see the Coca-Cola countdown to kickoff has us at 1 hour and 49 seconds before this, or 49 minutes, I should say, before the day starts.
And here in Madison, plenty of time for pregame festivities before kickoff.
Oh, you think they might have some of
forming
finest?
liquid. Yeah,
Forming liquid.
I love this, the pregame walk.
Well, you know, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar is counting us down to kickoff. Alabama plays Mercer. It was 10 years ago yesterday that the Tide lost to Louisiana Monroe. Louisiana Monroe is playing Auburn today.
How about that?
Still on the walk, even against Mercer.
Hey,
Still does the walk.
Is he wearing jeans? Is he wearing jeans with rips in them?
Here comes the Wolverines. Wolverines is in the building. Who's that?
Pep Hamilton.
It has been
another guy.
It has been more than a decade since Michigan won against a ranked opponent on the road. Is today the day? We'll see. I told you about those upsets, and the one 10 years ago yesterday. John Parker Wilson against Louisiana Monroe. 4 turnovers. It was the week before Auburn 10 years ago, and UL Monroe, despite being 24.5-point dogs, won it 21-14. Now Mercer, who plays Alabama, they've had an upset before too, but it was in basketball. A 14-3. They took out Duke, and Coach K.
I had that one in my bracket that year.
Stop it.
You're right.
Kevin Cannavaro was the dancer. And see, you're going to say now that this is a cupcake Saturday because all these highly ranked teams are playing the unranked opponents. But those highlights I just showed you, that's why you can never let your guard down. Every opponent has to be treated as if they are a threat to everything you hold dear in life. Preparation never changes. It consumes every waking moment. There is no time for distractions. Cupcakes, oh, those are just delicious, sweet confectionery bliss. Coaches don't have time for cupcakes.
Cupcake. Pick a
Oh, no, not the strawberry one.
Wait.
Strawberry.
Are you kidding me?
Focus. You have to focus. But
LC's all about the cupcake.
As a coach, you can't have enough cupcakes.
Fine, I'll get one to put it on the desk. How about that?
So maybe one little bite wouldn't be too distracting, right?
No. David, take a bite.
No.
Jeans, wore out jeans, holes in them, all cut up. I just remember when I was a kid in West Virginia, I was ashamed to go to school because my jeans were wore out.
I had a sweet potato cake from some place in Greenville this past weekend. It was awesome. It was awesome.
Kansas, playing Kansas this week, that was the inspiration for this question. What was your favorite rock band growing up?
Red Hot Chili Peppers. Easy. Easy.
Only because we didn't have any better. Now they buy them that way. I just can't figure how did we get here?
Nick's laughing about holy jeans. Dabo's got sweet potato pie. Lincoln Riley's reliving the,
it's
crowd
cupcake
surfing.
week.
Cupcake week. That's what you have left.
Des, you need to calm down over there, son. Goodness gracious.
Florida better be careful with that so-called cupcake UAB. I don't think that's a cupcake at all. Hey, there you go. You want Mercer, you want a cupcake,
Mercer.
right?
He's halfway through that thing. Look at that.
These aren't props. You understand that, right? These are not props. You gotta just wait till the swine come up here later in the show. You can have your way with the swine.
I was going to ask you first, but I'll let you enjoy your delicious treat here. What do you think as we get back to serious football here? These cupcake games, good for the sport? Okay to take a break at this point in the conference season? What do you like? You don't like them?
I can't stand them. With that being said, I know financially it helps the FCS, but there's so much money in this sport. Can't we find a way to filter money down to the FCS programs to avoid these matchups? Nick Saban himself has come out and said everybody should play all Power 5. Like, he wants to play, everybody play against the big schools. So I personally can't stand this week. I think it's great. I have buddies that played at the FCS level, and I respect that level. I mean, we go to North Dakota, and I love watching those teams. Carson Wentz played at the FCS level. There's been tons of guys. So it's nothing against the FCS. It's just we're in November, and it's time to watch these games that really potentially could cost you in conference games, or if you're going to go non-conference, play a group of 5 teams.
See, what you said to me is how we fix this. I'm okay with you resting up and doing it, but this is the part when the playoff season starts to matter, and week in and week out matters. So now I don't want to see these games. If you have them early in the season, that's fine with me. I mean, I understand it, Des, but I think late in the season when we're making playoff pushes, I want to see you against good competition, against conference foes, against rivals when it really matters. So I can really get a good gauge on who the best teams are.
I agree with Kirk. We came up in the same era. I mean, when I played in Michigan, we didn't have cupcakes. You know, our non-conference schedule didn't feature FCS teams or anything. So I'm all for just playing FBS teams and playing tough games, but I do understand the revenue part of it. I guess what baffles me is, like you said, why can't we filter some of that money down to these other programs? When you look at these coaches, Nichols' coach, Mercer's coach, they say don't feel sorry for us because we need the money. Not only does it fund the football, it funds their whole athletic department.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, good intention for you guys. Next time you guys find people willing to just hand out money, let me know. I'll get in line and see if they'll trickle some of that money down my way.
Alabama's handing out money today.
But for a game, it's different to hand out. You're saying just give it to them for no reason. To fund their programs. Out the goodness of your heart.
Find the money to be able to give so we can avoid these games. That's all. Des likes that strawberry.
I think Des better rethink his cupcake situation there. Some conferences don't have room for cupcakes. There's a complete round-robin schedule in the Big 12. Texas needs one win for bowl eligibility. That has been a little bit disappointing for Tom Herman's team. Played a lot of close games. They played tough. They've improved. They haven't won. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff in Morgantown. An hour and 42 minutes away on ESPN. And there is Will Greer. Greer, multiple touchdown passes in all 10 games. They're going to be riled up. A couple Texas players had some of the stereotypical disparaging remarks to say about the West Virginia crowd. They'll be jacked up to go to the Big 12 slate.
Yeah, and this offense has been kind of puzzling for West Virginia the past couple weeks. Past 2 weeks, guys, 0 points in the second half. This Greer to Sills combination is going to have to come out in full force. Going to have to play the second half, a full game, not just one. And the turnover bug has been killing West Virginia.
This Big 12 is an interesting race as we get near the stretch here. Oklahoma Oklahoma State trying to keep winning games. They have Kansas State. Their offense, obviously, very balanced, have a lot of firepower. Bill Snyder, always a tough defense. You know, you can expect that. The quarterback situation, we saw Skylar Thompson play. We don't know if the others are going to be healthy, so we'll keep an eye on that as well.
Let's wash down that cupcake. We got TCU and Texas Tech. Talking about tough defense, you know, TCU, they play pretty tough defense, but they're going to have to play great defense today because they'll be without their quarterback, Kenny Hill. And the team on the other side, the Red Raiders of Texas Tech, they don't really play that much defense whatsoever. So this should be a low-scoring ball game, man.
And Texas Tech season got away from it after blowing a lead against West Virginia. But look what they're playing for today. The Saddle, well, not that actual trophy, but the Saddle Trophy is back. It disappeared in the 70s, and the Frogs and the Raiders are bringing it back. Now, this is an important game for TCU because TCU controls its fate in terms of getting to the Big 12 championship game. Now, remember, this conference title game is new this year. They don't play with divisions. The top 2 teams in the conference go to the title game. TCU holds the edge among the second-place teams. Oklahoma, they can't clinch the #1 seed, but they can clinch a spot in the Big 12 championship game simply by beating Kansas, which you assume that they will do today. Now, TCU, though, Des mentioned it. I know Kenny Hill. He got a freshman, Sean Robinson, at quarterback. That could give Oklahoma State an opportunity to sneak in.
I think this Big 12 is confusing for a lot of people this year. Oklahoma, clearly, they're in control of their own destiny. TCU, if you're Oklahoma State, you're trying to win out, and you're hoping that the loss of Kenny Hill can maybe impact TCU negatively, and they lose on the road in Lubbock, and then that would get Oklahoma State in a rematch with Oklahoma. If I'm Oklahoma, I'd much rather see TCU than Oklahoma State's firepower. So I think Oklahoma's probably pulling for TCU to find a way to get it done in Lubbock.
If you saw the shootout with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State,
that could have gone
James
either way.
Washington banged up late in that game makes a difference probably. They're still scoring in that game. So, yeah, if I'm Oklahoma, I definitely want to see TCU. But I think the new era begins with Sean Robinson, and this kid's going to be good. I mean,
you're really impressed with him in practice.
We went to the TCU West Virginia game day and went to practice and watched him, and I was like, that dude can spin it. I mean, he's big, physical. He'll be a handful for Texas Tech today.
He's going to get a shot today against Texas Tech. It's probably going to be a high-scoring ball game because Texas Tech doesn't play defense, and they're going to be in a shootout.
We knew what you meant.
I think it's going to be so I think without Kenny Hill, though, you know, they're very vulnerable. You know, he brings so much to the offense. So, I don't know. I think TCU is going to struggle today against Texas Tech.
Bears got the Big 12 game on the board. He's got Iowa State, Baylor, Bear.
You guys mentioned Oklahoma State and TCU. I was talking to a couple Oklahoma fans yesterday. You're not alone in the fact that Oklahoma, they want no part of playing Oklahoma State again after that. They want no, I mean, you beat them again twice. That'd be a tough ask. But tough ask, I think, today for Iowa State. Has the emotional toll of the season in the last couple of weeks, close losses. I mean, half their games have been one-score games. Baylor, again, at home has been so close. It's a team that put up over 500 yards against Oklahoma, almost 500 yards at West Virginia. Turned the ball over a lot last week against Texas Tech, but their defense played well. Again, I think the growing pains of a young team with Baylor, eventually they're going to pull one of these close games out. I think today might be that day. I think the emotional toll of the season taking a toll on Iowa State. I like the Bears at home today.
Bears.
Bear likes the Bears.
Bear.
Hey, you like the underdogs this time of year, big time, too,
I like
don't you,
underdogs most of the time.
Yeah.
I think you can find a lot of value. I mean, I'm not always going to play dogs, but
Liking the dogs.
Whatever he's doing, he's 11 over 500. Just keep doing it.
That's outright,
printing money.
No. He gets 9. He gets 9. If they went outright, it's money line, bonus.
Well, sometimes he will say outright sometimes. You know?
He's saying outright for Baylor, I think.
I think Baylor wins it.
Baylor wins it outright.
Okay.
He likes those downtrodden teams today. He's got beef on the board. Let's see if he goes Arizona State.
You put Baylor and Oregon State in the same week on a board. That's the kind of week it is.
That's aggressive. That's the kind of week it is.
The quintessential one of those weeks where anything can happen.
Exactly.
Even Baylor
big eyeballs.
Same day. Matthew Detrasek, this week's Home Depot Tailgate Pro, all the way from Santa Ana, California. He wanted some real football weather. Knows his stuff when it comes to college football and tailgating. Matthew is our Home Depot Tailgate Pro winner. Noon on ESPN2, the Tiger Walk, all smiles for Gus after they put a whipping. Or as Gus said last week, he said, we whipped the dog mess out of him, didn't we?
Yeah.
And they caught that on tape. That might show up again.
Yeah, if you play him again in Atlanta, you might want to hope you didn't say that.
Louisiana Monroe's Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff in just over 96 minutes now. Gus making sure he gives everybody a little love on that Tiger Walk. keeps going. Stay tuned for more great college game day signs later in the show, which will be delivered by Pizza Hut. Hut Rewards, the great signs coming up.
Better than football and pizza? Football and free Pizza Hut pizza. Enter for a chance to win free pizza for a year. Sign up now at gameday.pizzahut.com. Sign up for Hut Rewards today and start earning points toward free pizza.
College Game Day, built by the Home Depot, is brought to you by Pizza Hut, the best pizza delivery deal. Order today with a large 2-topping pizza for just $7.99, because no one out-pizzas the Hut.
And be fighting like a badger to move that ball down the field against Michigan in Camp Randall.
He may have a better chance of scoring touchdowns in these offenses today.
That was the earlier Badger you saw was the fake. There was a real Bucky there for a second. The wheels up, fly cam, taking you over Bascom Hill, Bascom Lawn, and up toward the Bascom Hall centerpiece building here on the campus at Wisconsin. And just about a mile from where we sit is Camp Randall Stadium, and Michigan has arrived. Now, Michigan, at least mathematically, is still in the Big Ten East race. This is the way it looks. Ohio State's certainly going to win against Illinois today. Here's how you sort it out. A four-way tie would favor Ohio State. For Michigan to get in the Big Ten championship game, they need to win out and hope Sparty and Penn State lose again. So it's a long shot for Michigan to be able to play in the Big Ten championship game. Given that,
yes,
what's the biggest thing Michigan has to gain in this game today?
But there is hope. Mathematically, they're not out of it. So a couple of guys on the team, they think that they still have a shot. I think but the opportunity to win 10 games in the season, obviously, and play in a significant bowl game is motivation. And then to finish the season strong. I mean, you know, this is a group of young men with a lot of pride, a coaching staff with a lot of pride. So to be able to, you know, knock off teams, be able to play the spoiler role, I think that's what motivates Michigan at this point.
Michigan is playing for pride. They got pride. And they're playing to spoil Wisconsin's undefeated in Big Ten championship. That's what they're playing. But for the Big Ten title, Slim and no.
Slim just left town.
Yeah, he just left town.
But you know what? This is Michigan.
That's right.
Michigan will be motivated to be able to go out and play against Wisconsin. They got Ohio State at home next week. So there is plenty of motivation for this team. They got a young quarterback who's continuing to try to grow and kind of find that identity with where they are on the road, tough conditions. I don't think, you know, they're worried about the Big Ten championship. They want to go out and compete, beat Wisconsin, get ready for the big one next week with Ohio State.
And, you know, much has been made about Jim Harbaugh's record against rivals. And Michigan itself hasn't beaten an AP-ranked opponent on the road since 2006.
Wow.
They have an opportunity to get a huge road win, first time in a long time for the Wolverines today. Beaver Stadium, Penn State hosting Nebraska. Boy, that sounds like a good one, but Nebraska is in a state of turmoil. What is the future of their head coach? Cornhuskers have to win out to finish with a 500 record as they take on the Nittany Lions.
Yeah, Nebraska against Penn State. Nebraska's run defense has been very, very bad lately. But going up against Penn State, you look at Saquon Barkley. This guy won the Heisman in September, but games against Ohio State and Michigan State wasn't able to run the ball effectively. I want to see if he's going to struggle running the ball against the Cornhuskers today.
Des, I know you're fired up for this one. Maryland at Michigan State in East Lansing. Michigan State is off, obviously, a bad performance. Mark D'Antonio looking to Brian Lewerke to get things going, to Felton Davis, get their offense back established. And, you know, DJ Durkin, they're trying to get to bowl eligibility, need 2 wins in their last 2 games. Going to be tough.
The Yellow Buck, Illinois and Ohio State, final appearance at the Shoe for J.T. Barrett, 3-time captain. He headlines 19 guys playing their final home game on Senior Day. His legacy is one of a winner. I know there's been some stumbles, but when he's gone, Ohio State might really appreciate how great this guy is. Urban Meyer certainly appreciates it right now.
It's well documented, and I love JT. JT's a member of the Meyer family and the Buckeye family for the rest of his life. And I just wanted to play really well and do the best we can to prepare him to play very well.
Ohio State, as a team this year, might be the one that's most polarizing from big wins to big losses, and it almost mirrors JT's career in the perception. What's JT Barrett's legacy going to be at Ohio State. How do you judge?
I think it depends on how this season ends up. I think people that appreciate the game and understand the game are always going to appreciate J.T. Barrett for what he did and the way he played the game and the kind of the way he carried himself. But this is a football team that's very difficult to figure out. One week they look like they can play with anybody in the country. The next week they give up 55 at Iowa City, which is hard to do. So I think Urban Meyer, you can almost tell he gets into November. He has a different way about him. He's not smiling at the press conferences. I think 41 is the spread here. It may be at 42 by half because this team right now, I think, is very focused, and they may regret that trip to Iowa City.
You got to give Coach Meyer and his defensive staff, especially for their turnaround this last week. Right? And they got a playoff pulse.
Right.
Faint, but playoff pulse left.
Sure do.
Yeah.
They sure do.
Well, I just think that they're not as bad as their worst performance, not as great as their best performance. Somewhere in the middle, you know, coming to the season, people gave them the benefit of the doubt because they have so many 4- and 5-star recruits. You have Urban Meyer, one of the best coaches in college football. But I think that they kind of took that for granted. I don't think they went out there and played with their A game as often as they should have, and they've been exposed. So to me, I think Ohio State is a difficult team to figure out. A lot of talent, but they don't always show up, you know, when they need to, which is dangerous, very dangerous.
They're still the favorite to win the Big Ten, despite the 2 losses. Right, Bear? Still the favorite?
That's the thing. We're talking about the favorite scenario of the Big Ten has Ohio State beating Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship.
And talk about the possibility of a debate at the end of the year. I know they don't like that, but what Bear just said, their favorite, if they were able to win today, beat Michigan and beat Wisconsin in a Big Ten championship game, they're going to be in a really interesting spot on that Sunday, that final Sunday with the committee and how they're evaluating. Could come down to the loser of the game against Clemson and Miami, and Ohio State sitting there as potential Big Ten champs.
They have a playoff pulse.
Sure do.
But it's faint. It's faint. Wisconsin's is much better. They're undefeated. That phrase comes up again if they run the table, and fans are starting to work their way into Camp Randall and get ready for this showdown against Michigan. There it is. You see a few people starting to work their way in.
Stay here at game day.
And they got time.
Yes.
They never kick off until like 12:30 or 11:30. Just stick around.
Stick around for the headgear.
Stick around for game day. You know, the head coach of the Badgers, Paul Chryst. Paul Chryst grew up here about a mile from Camp Randall. He just oozes Wisconsin. You cut him and cheese curds and brats come out. Bid farewell, and he says, on Wisconsin. He's more Wisconsin than jump around. He played here, assistant here, and seemingly, Gene Wojciechowski, a man who was born to be the coach here.
Reese, he not only lived near Camp Randall Stadium, he had a newspaper route in that neighborhood. He actually used to help clean the stadium after football games as part of a fundraiser as a kid. He is a product of this campus, of this football program, and of a man who loved football as much as he does, his dad. 5 words.
He'd write me letters and before a season or before games, and it was always have fun, play the game. That's the one thing that I've taken and tried to share with the players that I get to coach.
5 words connect the dots between Paul Chryst and a memory. The memory of a man who never saw his son coach a game at Wisconsin.
Kind of wish that I'd had those coach-to-coach conversations. Never really did, but that's one thing that it would be fun to do.
Paul was very proud of his dad. Loved the football, loved being part of, being on the side ever since he was a little boy.
I was always proud to say, what's your dad do? He's a football coach. That was a big deal to me.
So it'll be 25 years that he's been gone next month. So it's a lot of, lot of events and milestones that have come and gone.
George Chryst had his own milestones. He was a Wisconsin man, played there, met his wife there, became an assistant there. And then in 1979, when Paul was just an 8th grader, he left there to become head coach at UW-Platteville, a Division III program in rural Wisconsin.
Oh, good heavens. I consider George as being the person that's responsible for a lot of the things that have happened athletically at UW-Platteville ever since. The players loved him. I mean, there's no other way to describe it.
Hey, man, we got a lot to be thankful for. Most important, be thankful for each other. You hung together, a lot of bad things happen, but you never let it get you down.
Our first year in Platteville, I would chart the plays that were called, and I loved it. You know, my dad on road trips, he used to drive in a van with the quarterback. So that was the first time where I really got to be around the X's and O's of football, and I was fascinated by it.
Paul Chryst started at Platteville High and later played at Wisconsin, just like his dad. Meanwhile, George Chryst won lots of games, but he also won respect and admirers.
If someone had an anniversary party, he would go to the anniversary party. If someone had a birthday party, he would go. If someone had a funeral, he definitely went to the funeral. He just always went out of his way to make sure he was there for people.
On December 3rd, 1992, just days after leading his program to a 7th consecutive winning season, 55-year-old George Chryst died in his sleep, the victim of an acute spasm in his larynx. Now, it was Platteville's turn to go out of its way for him. Do you remember what they did out at the stadium? Did you ever hear?
I think they put some, I think there's something on the snow. I think they put team.
Team, pride, we love you, George.
Yeah. That's pretty powerful. And that's the greatest thing they could do for him. Like, that would mean a ton to him. That'd be everything that he'd want them to. That'd be a job well done.
Paul was 27 when his dad died. He was 49 when he was introduced as head coach at Wisconsin in late 2014.
Wouldn't have been able to do this without, you know, my mom and dad and family and what they've done. I think he'd be proud. He'd be proud of my family. I think he'd be proud of what I'm doing.
You know, George actually tried to discourage Paul from getting into coaching. It's a good idea that Paul didn't listen to that advice. And Reese, you've met Paul, you've talked to him. He would rather eat a bowl of green flies than have attention paid to him, especially on camera. When we were in his office that day, he asked, "Do you mind if I close the doors? I don't want the assistants to see me doing this." Like father, like son, Reese.
Gene, you know, Paul is a low-key guy. I think the guys play so hard for him because they know he's genuine, he's real, and he cares. And that's why they have had tremendous success here under Chryst and why he has been able to continue on the great culture at Wisconsin and a great opportunity for Chryst and his team today. Scott Frost's team is undefeated. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff, hour and 20 minutes away. I considered this as a super dog. I think Scott Frost better be careful there in Philadelphia against a quickly improving Temple team.
You looked good last week.
Yeah, much better. And Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff. Bryant Denny, you see Minkah Fitzpatrick's jersey, you're not going to see shoulder pads under that baby. Not today.
Rest him up. Iron Bowl next week.
Rest him up. Exactly.
Cupcake
Goodbye,
game
Mercer.
today, huh? Cupcake game.
Mercer in Alabama coming up. Minkah's had a little bit of a hamstring, and Auburn coming up next week. And Malik Rozier, Coca-Cola Zero Sugar, continuing to count us down toward kickoff on ABC, Virginia and Miami. Pleased to hear the report. Malik's dad, Eli, is going to be in the crowd. Couple of losses. Jim Harbaugh has some advice for his Wolverines.
Strap on the iron jock, kick the ball through the uprights.
I think the iron jock, we all know how painful that can be. Had one job. Some people don't quite get it done.
They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone.
And Maria Taylor has the best sign of the week.
I sure do, Reese. I'm here with Nathan Borden, and he's the winner of the Game Day Sign of the Week delivered by Pizza Hut Rewards. And what is the difference between $1 and Michigan? You're not going to get 4 quarters from the Wolverines. Do you think you'll get 4 quarters tonight?
The game will be over by halftime. 31-10 Wisconsin.
All right. Well, we already have one pick made. We also have our guest picker coming later on today. And Wheels Up brings him in. It's going to be Craig T. Nelson, who's starring in Disney Pixar's Incredibles 2, which is coming out in summer 2018.
Great scene this morning in Madison, Wisconsin and Michigan. Coming up 11 o'clock Central, Wheels Up Fly Cam, giving you a good look at Bascom Hill, the lawn in front of Bascom Hall. Centerpiece building. Look at Old Crimson making an appearance. 206 consecutive game day. You know, they're off. They win the Apple Cup next week. They're going to the Pac-12 title game.
That's right.
How about that?
Yep.
See, that's pretty strong for them. The headliner.
Silent, what is it? The shallow music?
Shallow music.
May have to come back again.
They come back next week. You never know. Pretty deep rivalry between USC and UCLA tonight. Clay Helton first saw Josh Rosen as a Pop Warner quarterback. Rosen was a teammate of Helton's son, Reed. There's going to be more than 70 guys who are going to face old high school teammates tonight in the battle for the victory bell. With all eyes on the quarterback showdown between Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold, might be the only time they meet as collegiate opponents.
Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold, without question, are going to be the top quarterbacks coming out.
They both had their struggles. Darnold has had the interception problems.
Here comes the heat. He throws down, intercepted.
Rosen has not won at a high rate.
Fumble by Rosen.
This game is going to tell you a lot. Seeing them head-to-head will be interesting.
Obviously, really special week for our football team. Great rivalry.
It's awfully exciting to see these two young quarterbacks taking the field together on Saturday night.
Offensively, it all runs through Josh.
Rosen throws back pylon.
It's an elite level passing game. It'd be a great challenge to our defense.
He has all the attributes that NFL teams are looking for in a franchise quarterback.
Darnold throwing down the left side, right in the breadbasket.
He's very difficult to defend.
Get your popcorn and enjoy this one.
You're going to see big-time quarterbacks. Helton said it had been fun to watch the opposing quarterback, Rosen, develop into what he called an NFL quarterback. Turnovers, obviously, the problem for Darnold. But some will tell you that's because these guys are willing to cut it loose and throw it into places where their receivers should be, but nobody has more turnovers than the 18 that Sam Darnold has this year. You're going to be calling the game tonight. What do you expect to see from the USC offense, which seems to be hitting its stride?
Did I see a kitty behind you? Like as you were on your thing? You're just like hovering over your shoulder there.
This one.
Yeah, right there. There you go. Just pet that.
Yeah.
I can't wait to watch these two quarterbacks. I think we've been waiting for these two to go head-to-head, and now here we are. The difference with Sam Darnold from early in the year to now is his offensive line is healthy, and the wide receivers. He lost some great ones last year, led by Juju Smith, who's now doing great things in Pittsburgh in the NFL. They needed some time to get some experience and to get Sam Darnold to really trust them. And I think now you're seeing a different USC offense from where they were, let's say, Notre Dame, when they really struggled in South Bend. These last 3 weeks, he's accounted for 9 touchdowns, only 2 turnovers. First thing is the recognition and the trust. Motion, Dez, of course, the guy, the DB going with him, tells him man-to-man. Now he's got one-on-one at the bottom. And that great back shoulder throw here. You'll see a lot of that tonight to 21, Tyler Bonds. Also, we've seen this throughout the last 2 years. Ability to improvise. And this is unique because of his eyes downfield. He knows where his players are and where the soft spot is, and the quick release and the arm strength to squeeze it into a tight window. So keep an eye on that tonight against UCLA. And then the mobility. This is an RPO. He feels that he has the throw. He starts to make that throw, but that nickelback slides out into the throwing lane, so he pulls it down. This is where I think Clay Helton says he's improved the most. Is in the past, early in the year, he makes that throw. He trusts that arm to get it in there. This time, he felt that, he held it, and then he can rely on his athletic ability, take off and make a play. UCLA, last in the entire country at defending the run. They're going to put everybody up at the line of scrimmage to stop Ronald Jones, which could mean a big opportunity for Darnold to make some throws with those receivers.
You're going to see them tonight, right?
Going to see them tonight?
When you tell them I said this.
Yes, sir.
Southern Cal has won the Pac-12 South.
Yes.
They're the highest-ranked Pac-12 team in the playoff rankings.
Sure.
They're 11th.
Yeah.
Now, if they win out and all hell breaks loose,
you never know.
They possibly could make the playoffs. Possibly. You never give up. Never give up.
Isn't that your ball club in August?
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Well, you know, I think that's something to that, though. You're going to consider Ohio State, consider them.
Yeah, I think when you look at UCLA, though, you look at Josh Rosen, he came in with a bunch of hype, a lot of arm talent, had to work on his pocket presence, had to work on his accuracy, just a great quarterback. He's going to be a high draft pick, but their defense has been decimated by injuries. They're only starting 2 seniors on defense tonight. I think USC is going to run away with this game.
Yeah.
All right, so that comes up tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern time on ABC. Bear, you got another pick. Got underdog working there.
All-timer.
You taking the beef?
I am, because I think since Gary Anderson resigned from there, at home, they've been a much different team. They nearly pulled the upset over Stanford.
Wait, who resigned? Say that
well, Gary Anderson resigned as Oregon State head. That's why I threw that in there for them. I thought they liked that. But at home, remember on Friday night, they nearly beat Stanford at home. They went on the road, predictably gave up a lot of points, a lot of yards. Arizona State, they played great in that upset win for Washington. But since then, giving up a lot of yards on the ground, a lot of points. I think Oregon State, they'll play hard, battle today at home. And I don't know if they'll win outright, but I think the Beavers, again, will play a very good game, close at home.
More of a reflection of poor ASU than really good Oregon State. Yeah.
You've seen Oregon State, right?
Yeah.
Not really good.
Yeah.
No, they try hard.
Yeah.
They're trying hard.
They are trying.
They played their guts out against Stanford.
Yeah, they did. They really did. I enjoyed that.
UCLA and SC Reminders on ABC, streaming live on the ESPN app, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. Herbie, Chris, and Maria will be there for that one. Of course, this game and the one that the Bears picked is not the only one in the Pac-12 that carries great significance today. Our blimp-worthy play. The band is on the field in the Stanford-Cal game back in 1982. I'm telling you, the Cal guy was down. Rod Gilmore agreed with me.
There he's down. Replay. He's down.
They get it to Rogers. They give it back now to the 30. They're down to the 20. Oh, the band is out on the field. He's going to go into the end zone. He's going into the end zone. Will it count? We've heard no decision yet.
Keep it on the swivel.
Kevin Moen goes in. It was a Goodyear blimp-worthy moment. Cal won it 25-20, kept Elway from going to a bowl in his last year. Now, Cal and Stanford play again today. This is important because the only way Washington can go to the Pac-12 title game is if Cal beats Stanford. Otherwise, they're eliminated. Who wins the game, Cal or Stanford?
Is Bryce Love's ankle okay? Is he playing? I'm going with Bryce Love and the Stanford Cardinal.
Stanford has beaten them 5 in a row. Stanford,
I'm with you. Bryce Love, serious Heisman candidate. Think he goes off today against Cal.
You know, he's a serious Heisman candidate. The reigning Heisman winner, Lamar Jackson, he's gone 3,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing.
That's all.
Back-to-back years.
Crazy.
And no love because they haven't won enough.
No.
There might be some love pushing for that award against Baker Mayfield. Don't forget the College Football Awards presented by the Home Depot. Come your way Thursday night, December 7th, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Won't see the Heisman, you'll see everything else leading up to Heisman weekend there. So you have it seems like that Baker Mayfield is in great position to run away with a ton of these awards. He's going to have more than one award because he does his job singularly very well. Maria and David down there, what do you got for you have one job? Perhaps people who are not at Mayfield's level at being able to contribute.
Yeah, we'll find out whether or not anyone in this list actually does their job well. Chances are they won't. It's time for Geico's You Had One Job. And let's start, David, with someone who can turn a pick six into positive yardage for the opponent. And we're just going to have to go with Florida on this one.
Okay, let's see it.
Yeah, C.J. Henderson. Got
nice
the
pick.
Let's go.
Get in the zone. Get in the zone. Let's go. Oh, he fumbled. Yeah. Oh, I got it. Going back the other way. First down. Move the chains. Nice. Help South Carolina offense.
Oh, poor Florida. They're going to figure it out next season. Florida State and Clemson. Kelly Bryant, he's hit. He fumbles. Can the Seminoles pick it up? You got to fall on it, right?
I got it. You got it. I got it. Oh.
Nobody.
Unfortunately, Kelly Bryant did this a couple times in the bad area.
Yeah. No one gets a turnover chase.
Yeah, but listen, you're supposed to scoop and score, but...
yeah, okay, moving on.
You had a job, you didn't do it.
Guess what? College basketball. It's going. DePaul, they got a chance for the ooh.
Oh. Well, what about the block, though? What a great block. Great oop. 31. No. You got to finish that, man. Yeah. You ruined the dime.
That's Devin Gage. We got to work on that a little bit. Watch this. Break them down. Break ankles. Fall. Buckets. No.
Oh. $1 million move.
That's literally.
$1 finish.
David, that was you last night. $1 million move.
Airball. Oh, that was a great move, though.
Yeah, that was.
Great cross.
Okay, check out this. It's a headbanger. Piccolo's going.
Yeah. I like it.
I usually see that from the
Come on, Marie, let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Bang. Bang. All right, we talked about the turnover chain. We had a turnover toaster. How about Kennesaw State? They have the turnover plank, and he's dressed nice. I love that. Right?
What is that?
It's a plank of wood. It's a turnover plank.
What?
David, that's what we get when we get a turnover. Oh, check this out. You had one job. Stay out of the mud. but for some reason, you're laying in it right now. These are my favorite fans.
What's wrong with you people?
You guys are awesome. You did your job today.
Slopping in the mud.
Right back in Madison, Wisconsin. More College Game Day coming your way.
What's wrong with y'all? You gonna give that a whirl? I want to hear it.
Oh, look at the crowd here in Wisconsin. You know that they have the great signs. There's been some creative signs out here for sure. We take a look at the game day signs delivered by Pizza Hut. Rewards. Tailgate harder than your team. You know what? A lot of people might just say that. That might be true here. Harbaugh's allergic to denim.
He likes khaki.
Inexpensive khaki.
Yeah.
I wonder how he feels about the stretch denim. Can't lose. Oh, wow.
That's pretty good.
I like that. They're supposing the victory over here, and the Wolverines are indeed bowl eligible. 10-0 and 11-0. Doesn't seem strange. They're 10-0 for the first time ever. Playoff rankings. You got Michigan just above the 49ers. Wisconsin wants Bama. We'll shout out to Green Bay.
Yeah, they got to take. They played Bama a couple years ago, didn't they, in Arlington? That didn't go well. I'm just saying, I saw that when I called the game.
Harbaugh ruined dad bods. That's pretty good. I like that. All the great signs. We'll give you the very best ones throughout. You always see them in the background. Sometimes Herb Street tells you there's a cat over my shoulder. So
pet it.
Never know what's back there.
I know. You have to keep your head on a swivel.
Exactly.
That's a little more difficult for me today at times.
Yeah, I forgot about that. We're going to get that in there.
How can you forget? You see him turning his neck.
All right, December 9th, we're going to Philadelphia for the Army-Navy game. Commander-in-Chief's trophy will be decided. Let me tell you something.
Our favorite.
Yeah, we're seeing the ROTC guys here.
Can't wait.
Servicemen here that are helping us out. That's going to be a great scene. Full 3 hours of College Game Day in Philadelphia. And Army, man, they're sizzling. Played North Texas, third time in 13 months. You know, Andy Davidson ripping through there. They played a bowl game last year. Army is second in the nation in rushing. They have the fewest attempts and fewest completions. But they do have 2 touchdown passes among the 17 completions. That's all they have all year.
How about Coach Monken? A job that he has done in such a short time.
Yeah, Army's second in the nation in rushing. Guess who's first? Navy. That's right. 370 yards a game on the ground going up against Notre Dame. Can Notre Dame bounce back from that curve stomping they took down at Hard Rock Stadium? I don't know. That offense was really, really bad. Maybe these guys can bounce back today. It's going to be tough. A tall task for the Fighting Irish.
Well, you remember it was 10 years ago that Navy had lost 43 in a row to Notre Dame. Kaiponoa, Kehaku, and Hada.
You practiced that all week.
No, I called several Navy games when Kaipo was the quarterback. I think he went on to become
Do that again.
pilot.
Do that again.
Kaiponoa, Kehaku, and Hada.
Well, you hit something there in the middle.
Exactly. Like a tune. He hit Reggie Campbell.
Was that Charlie Weiss?
And then Navy, yes, hit Travis Thomas, kept him from getting the 2. Paul Johnson, not vertical. What do you got?
I got one for you.
All right, let's hear it.
Say the head coach and the quarterback.
At the time, the head coach was Paul Johnson.
Oh, no.
You are. Good job.
Offensive coordinator.
This is easy.
OC.
Yeah.
Who's the OC?
Ken Niumatalolo.
And his quarterback?
Was Kaiponoa, Kehaku, and Hada.
Kehaku, and Hada.
That's impressive, dude.
Kaipo.
That's good.
We'll see how good you are in a minute with you.
You got one.
You got one you got to pronounce.
That's why he's RD.
Called one of the games with Lou Holtz there, though, you know. So he just decided Kaipo was the way to go. Navy and Notre Dame are going to square off again, 3:30 Eastern time. Now, the midshipmen have had some success. They beat Notre Dame last year, but the Fighting Irish are now trying to find a way to bounce back after being taken down by Miami last week.
The Fighting Irish, 3 wins away from being among the final 4 teams standing in the college football playoff.
We make a decision in here where we go from here.
At number 8, Notre Dame takes a tumble after getting spanked by Miami.
Notre Dame now obviously on the outside looking in.
The mindset hasn't changed. We got a lot still to play for. There's a lot of pride and tradition here to maintain and be dominant, and that's what you're going to see on Saturday against Navy.
We're ready now to take on a really good football team in Navy. We have to take what happened, and we've got to grow. And we've got to grow from it because we're going to be in this situation again. And when we are, we need to flourish in that kind of situation.
How about that approach from Brian Kelly as he looks at it? You see Navy and Notre Dame, when the Irish have finished with a winning record. You see how the score has gone. 1957 game in South Bend. Some of them have been fairly close, though, when the Irish finished with that record. But look at what the Irish are going to wear today. Rockney Heritage uniforms. They've got the win one for the Gipper speech there. And to throw it, I love this. Did you see the shoes?
No.
Those are all kind of brown leather, old school. Looked like they were from the 30s. That's a really good look. What do you expect today to bounce back from Notre Dame?
Wow. I think that, they're a team, like we talked earlier about Michigan, a lot of pride, a lot of tradition. Brian Kelly is a fantastic coach. I think, they're licking their wounds from what happened a week ago, but they're going to go out and just play Notre Dame football, which is being physical up front, try to run the ball. The question to me is if Navy defensively can mimic what they saw on film all week that Miami did a week ago. They don't have the athletes that the Canes have, so they're probably not going to be able to stop the running attack of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if you remember this game last year, Notre Dame's offense had the ball twice in the second half. That's what Navy does. So Wimbush, Kirk and them talked about on the broadcast last week, and you saw the big old hand, and he wasn't effective at all. So if they make a mistake or two when Navy already limits possessions, now you're going to see this game come down to the fourth quarter. I do agree. I think Notre Dame's too good for Navy. I think they will win, but if you make some of those mistakes, you're going to pay for them against Navy.
That's exactly right. We were just talking about Paul Johnson and what he does at Georgia Tech. Same thing. They're going to shorten the game, give you 7 or 8 possessions. Yep. And that's exactly what Navy's going to try to do to Notre Dame today. And can Notre Dame capitalize on their opportunities? This isn't about Navy, in my opinion, for Notre Dame. The way they're off, forget about losing to Miami, it's how their offense looked. They looked like they were in quicksand. The offensive line pulling around, the defensive end from that same side would just walk behind him, and it was a loss of 2. And this is a team that's played some really good defenses, so they got to just forget about who they're playing, forget about the rankings, and just get back to dominating the line of scrimmage and regain some confidence before they head out to Stanford.
Yeah, Notre Dame is probably out of the college football playoff picture. They would need a lot of things to fall their way. As the game unfolds this afternoon, almost certainly at some point, Navy is going to be lauded for showing heart while they play. That's merely a figure of speech. But there is a literal need and an agonizing wait for a member of the Navy family, an assistant coach, and his son. Jen Latta is here with the story. Jen?
Well, thank you very much, Reese. Yeah, Ivan Jasper has been coaching at the Naval Academy for almost 2 decades. That type of tenure breeds confidence in one's instincts. He, as a coach, is supremely confident in his ability to gamesmanship and strategize and be prepared for those moments when a game may go sideways. But Ivan Jasper is also a father, and nothing in his life could prepare him for the moment that everything changed for his family. Navy offensive coordinator Ivan Jasper spends most of his days in the Naval Academy football offices. Here, the father of 3 surrounds himself with images of his children, including his youngest son, Jaron.
He was born here in Annapolis. And he loves everything about Navy football. We would come home from a game, watch football for the rest of the night, and Jaron was right there next to him. That was his little sidekick.
I never had to worry about Jaron. He takes care of himself. Great kid. Just my buddy, and in my heart.
In June, 14-year-old Jaron went for a routine physical that would allow him to play sports for the upcoming school year. The doctor detected an accelerated heartbeat and sent Jaron for more tests.
As soon as we walked in to the room with the specialist at Children's, he went up to Jaron, did like this, and said, "You can't live like that. Your heart is gonna give out sooner or later, going that fast."
Jaron was prepped for a cardiac ablation, a procedure that would correct his abnormal heartbeat.
I just had that gut feeling something's wrong. And within about 45 minutes, the doctor comes in and just says, We had some problems, and it took us a little over 30 minutes to resuscitate him, and I was like, what?
They're doing a procedure, they were almost done, and his heart stopped. And then come to find out, that at one point during the procedure, he was gone.
During surgery, Jaron's heart swelled, sending him into cardiac arrest. Doctors revived him on the operating table, but his heart was permanently damaged. He would need a heart transplant.
There's nothing you can do for your child, and that is the worst feeling. That's the worst feeling ever. There's nothing you can do for him.
I couldn't imagine that. He's going to have a procedure, and we may not make it? Jeez, man. As you know, we're a family. That's what makes our team unique. But Coach Jasper's son, he's in ICU right now.
Forget being a football coach. I just put myself in his shoes being a dad, and knowing Jaron and knowing the Jaspers just kills you.
I had to be strong for my son. I told him, I said, I've been coaching for a very, very long time. I've been fortunate enough to coach some good players. But my best coaching job is going to be with you. Because I want to get you back to where you were as best as I can.
Good job, bud. With his parents' support, Jaron got a little stronger every day. Finally, on October 5th, after 2 months in the hospital, the Jaspers were able to take their son home.
Goodbye.
When I was in there, I was kind of hoping somebody would come in and just say I could leave. But then once I started seeing all the people that were so happy for me, it just made me happy.
Jaron! Oh my God, I love you.
People would ask me, how are you? I used to say, we're living in hell. And you know what? It's not, because my son's alive. I can still hug him. I can kiss him.
Just 2 days after returning home, Jaron attended his first Navy football game of the season.
Looking down the middle, Carmona! Checkerboard end zone! It's all over!
Hi, man!
How about that, man?
Whatever happened, it's still a win. Your boys here.
Exactly.
Regardless of what happened today on the field, today's the win. Jared Jasper's here.
Why do you think they did that?
Just because they knew all that we've been through in the past few months. It'd make me happy for one, and also make my dad just happy too.
I just keep praying for a miracle. I cannot even imagine what he's going through, but he has been grinding every single day. I mean, he's my hero. He's my hero.
It has certainly been a challenging 5 months for the Jasper family, and really for the Navy family as a whole. Jaron's life is so vastly different now than it was even in June. He has a portable LVAD that is with him 24/7. It helps his damaged heart. He also, as you saw, has nerve damage in his foot. That makes just moving around very difficult. The family has received support from all over the college football landscape, but now all they can do is wait. Wait for that phone call that the transplant committee has found a heart for young Jaron Jasper. If you want to hear more on his story and more on the Navy season as a whole, Showtime has been following the Mids around all season long with a weekly series called A Season with Navy Football. We will bring you more college football here on College Game Day, live from Madison, Wisconsin, right after this.
a little less away from kickoff of what well might be the most significant game of the season. There are your friends. You got that rumor ready to hit you if you don't pick the Badgers.
No, sister, I won't.
Uh-oh. Hey now. The W's are flying. They hope they get a W against Michigan coming up. Now, we know what this weather here is like, but Texas, West Virginia coming up next on ESPN. This looks like, remember, it was like this when Oklahoma State went over there, at least for a while. Texas and West Virginia, it is coming a gully washer, a frog strangler in Morgantown, and some are just unfazed by the downpour. You got to get the cheese and crackers. Might be some sardines in there. Maybe a yan dog in Morgantown. Ever see the league? Bill Stewart used to love the yan dogs, and look who's here.
Who is that young man?
That is Jonathan Taylor. When he came here, true freshman this year, they thought maybe a little bit of depth. Started 5th string on the depth chart. Now all of a sudden, he is the man. You know, Jonathan Taylor wrote an essay in the 8th grade saying that he wanted to go to school in Wisconsin. Despite growing up in New Jersey, he had been infatuated with the Badgers, and he's proven worthy of carrying the mantle set by guys like Ron Dane and Monte Ball and Melvin Gordon. With a turnover-prone passing game, Taylor's become the big play guy, and he split his about 1,500 yards or so almost evenly inside the tackles and outside. Inside the tackles is where tough yards are gained on a day like today against a Michigan defense that's been best in the Power 5 at stopping inside runs.
He busts to the outside, and Jonathan Taylor has these Badger fans salivating right now. Look at the power of Taylor down the sideline for his second score. Jonathan Taylor, can he take it the distance? He can. Touchdown Badgers.
You know, they love to run the ball. In Michigan defense, we pride ourselves on stopping it. So, you know, going in this week in practice, all we're going to work is stopping the run.
Michigan's defense is playing at a really high level and has been. There's no doubt it's a tremendous challenge, and they're playing with confidence.
I feel like our defense is really physical going against a team like Wisconsin. You know, they're physical and pass as well.
I think they got the best front seven we faced so far.
Not one guy will be able to or can beat Michigan or their defense. It's going to take everyone.
See the numbers that Jonathan Taylor has put up this year. He leads all freshmen 153 yards per game and getting those 10-yard carries. Has provided some of those big running plays that Wisconsin felt might have been missing the last couple of years as Maria and David join us now to talk about Taylor against this Michigan D.
Yeah, Reese, and it's crazy to think Jonathan Taylor wasn't heavily recruited till the spring of his junior year, was committed to Rutgers at one point, and has made it over 900 miles away from New Jersey to Wisconsin.
And they're happy about that.
And they're more than happy about that, David. And what are you happy about seeing when this young guy is on the field?
Well, you know, Reese said something that was I was going to say too that's very interesting. Is it's not just the outside, it's the inside and the outside, and he's a really big, really physical back, and you can see that. You know, he's got those tree trunks for legs. It's the balance that he can prove. You know, you've seen the jet sweep in college football. You don't see that necessarily at Wisconsin in the past, maybe last year a little bit. Watch him. They put him at wide receiver outside, put him in the jet sweep. They let him go outside. Just look at the vision. He cuts inside, does a great job. Look at the blocking's really good, but watch him bounce off of guys. Cut inside, cut outside, stiff arm somebody, take it to the house. You see this consistently from him. How about extra yards up the middle? You got to be physical to run up the middle. Wisconsin's physical, Michigan's physical. Look at the yards after contact. Look at him just carrying folks. The big boys helping him. Just ding, 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 tick, 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 tick. He's done a great job, and now you got the biggest test of the year for this offensive line. You got Hurst. They're going to load the box consistently against Wisconsin. That's what Michigan likes to do. They want to play man coverage, and they're going to get in your face and make tackles for a loss and make life difficult you, and then rub your belly a little bit. Yeah. You rub your belly. So, you know, it'll be the toughest challenge, but I think Jonathan Taylor's proven this year he's been pretty up for it.
With guys like Chase Winovich, and you mentioned that Michigan defense, do you think that Jonathan Taylor will be able to have the same success, averaging 150 yards per game right now?
You saw Saquon Barkley, you know, go off against Michigan, and you wonder about the competition level that they've seen with that defense, but it has to be more side to side than right up the middle. But I think he can. And listen, Honeybrooke hasn't been great this season. Very up and down, very inconsistent. I think this is a game when you're playing at home where you need him to play big. So it'll be very interesting to see.
All right, you got to pick the game. What you got?
You know what? If you're listening to me, first of all, last 2 weeks I've been wrong, so
okay.
it hasn't been good. But I think this atmosphere, Camp Randall, one of the best atmospheres in college football, I think it's the difference in the ball game. I don't think you're going to see a high-scoring game. I think it's a 17-14 game. Michigan struggles with the kicking game. Maybe they miss a field goal. Wisconsin doesn't. Wisconsin wins 17-14.
All right, we'll take your pick with a grain of salt because you said you've been wrong before. But
absolutely.
We are still loving the scarf, David. We will roll with that. I have to bring it
Last
up again.
time you'll ever see it.
Last time, Reese.
All right, Maria, David Pollock picking the Badgers to win, but this guy, since Brandon Peters, quiet guys, taking over for the Michigan offense, they've been very efficient. Wolverines have scored touchdowns on 42% of their drives. That is the best in the Big Ten during that span. Wilton Speight, John O'Korn struggled at times. You see how the points per drive have jumped too, but he's going to have to make some plays against this Wisconsin defense today.
It's caught by Evans. Touchdown, Michigan. Brandon Peters throws his first collegiate touchdown.
He's been very poised. He's taken a couple hits that he probably shouldn't have taken, and he's popped up from him. He's playing like a veteran, that's for sure.
I just think we have to do some things to get pressure on him early, you know, to make him uncomfortable.
I think the biggest thing for me is not turning over the ball. I think that's been a big positive so far.
We played well before, we played well now. We'll play for whoever's back there. Right now it's Brandon, and we got his back 100%.
Brandon Peters going to come into a really difficult environment against a really good defense in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin leads the nation in total and rushing defense, and one of their main reasons is their front seven. They really play tough up front there.
Yes, they
now,
do.
watch them here. This first time they're going against a sack. Now, watch them, the speed and quickness of them. They average almost 4 sacks a game just by going after the quarterback. The second is the blitz. They come in after the guy. They pressure the quarterbacks into 5 pass interceptions over the last 3 games. And then gang tackling. This is what they're famous for. Watch it, how many guys are on the ball carrier. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, the weather conditions should be a factor in this game. And it favors Wisconsin. They are 3rd in the nation in total defense.
Okay.
They allow 12 points a game. Factor, conditions.
Yes, sir.
Wisconsin favored.
Wow, it's pretty good. I tell you what, you look at Michigan's offense, though, Coach, especially since Brandon Peters has been the quarterback, they've been really manipulating defenses with movements, shifts, motions. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about in this clip right here. This first game against Maryland, you're going to watch the tight end. They're in 3 tight personnel, 3 tight ends in the offense, confusing the defense. Watch this. You're going to see Zach Gentry, he's going to shift. The defense shifts over 1 gap, and the linebackers flip. And now Sean McKeon, he motions to the right of the formation, all the way out. Watch the safety, Darnell Savage. He's trying to communicate a change in coverage, busting the coverage. Easy throw for Brandon Peters. He throws a very nice catchable ball. On this play right here, there are 12 personnel. Nate Shanley goes in motion. The defense is paying attention to number 81, Nate. They do not recognize that Michigan's in an unbalanced formation. Sean McKeon, once again, he's eligible. He catches the screen. Another nice little toss from Brandon Peters. Easy touchdown. They're blocking better at the point of attack, too. Watch the right guard and right tackle. Cesar Ruiz and Juwan Bush-Obedi. Great double team right there. And then you got Khalil Hill, number 80, the tight end. He leads in the power, and Karan Higdon, he does the rest. Michigan right now is manipulating defenses with a lot of eye candy, shifts, movements, motions, and then Brandon Peters at the quarterback position is throwing very nice catchable balls so his guys can catch it and get yards after the catch.
Yeah, that creativity is going to be important today. You see Jimmy Harbaugh there with his cleats on and working a quarterback circa 1986 there, looking good. But Des, you're right. This offense always with Jim Harbaugh and Pep Hamilton, they always come up with ways to try to affect your eyes. But this is a different defense. Wisconsin is #1. They're so sound. The coach just told you about up front. What I love is how they eat up the double teams. Song Apollo in the middle, 350 pounds. Alec James, look how they eat up those double teams. And Ryan Conley, who's had a great year filling in for Jack Sitchie, is able to make a lot of plays. Keep an eye on 43 today. The other thing is they don't let you get to the outside. They do a good job of setting the edge. Michigan will have to get their tough yards in the interior, and those outside linebackers are athletic. It's tough to outflank them and get to the outside. This is the other thing. They get you to third down. Brandon Peters has got to be aware of this, and the offensive line from Michigan. You're going to see Van Ginkel comes in passing situation 17, be able to get to the quarterback without blitzing. That was just rushing for and stunning. And here's the leader, TJ Edwards. Watch what he does here in the little play action. He feels it, has the sense to be able to get back. Now he's just reading the quarterback's eyes. This is last week, goes up one hand, makes a big interception, number 53. This is a defense that I think really feeds off of the leadership of Jim Leonard, who played as a walk-on at Wisconsin, had played with a chip on his shoulder, wasn't drafted, went to the NFL, played in the NFL for 10 years, kind of with a chip on his shoulder. Justin Wilcox, of course, left to take the Cal job, and Jim Leonard, to me, is an outstanding first-year defensive coordinator for this defense.
We were talking to Alvarez last night when Leonard was a player. One of his strong suits, among the many, was making sure everybody got lined up, both at the college level and in the NFL. That he's jumped right into it, and he'll match wits with that Michigan offensive staff.
I love it.
Sweet.
Hardball out there. I saw
my guy, number 80, Khalid Hill.
Oh, yeah. Woo-wee. Oh, there you go. Just huddling up. I want to say one thing about Michigan. Saw Karan Higdon out there. He's a little bit nicked. So
yeah, he has an ankle
going
problem.
through warm-ups.
Correct, yeah.
And soon
banged
22 will be ready to go. They've had some injuries in the backfield. Wisconsin and Michigan coming up at noon Eastern time. So too Virginia and Miami. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff.
I like Malik Rozier.
I like that kid right there.
Competes.
And Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff in the SEC network. Jalen Hurts better look quickly. I got to imagine two's going to be out pretty quickly against Mercer.
I agree.
Less than 30 seconds to go. He threw the game-winning touchdown pass in Starkville last week. And Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff on the Plains. What a season Kerryon Johnson has had for Auburn as they get ready to play Louisiana Monroe.
War Eagle.
Almost the 10-year anniversary of Monroe beating Alabama. He followed up by beating Auburn.
Is that a precursor for next week?
I say nothing. Watch the show.
Our friends at Wheels Up. Make sure the celebrity guest picker is ready to go, and it is Craig T. Nelson, former star of coaching, incredible, all the right moves.
Hey, you guys get
right there.
Big pretzels and just bring me some more cupcakes.
Got a little tuna there?
Where are the cupcakes? What's this?
Oh, wait. Behold the power of cheese.
Look at that.
Right?
Is there like a cheese curd in there somewhere? What's a cheese curd?
Look at this. It's a pretzel.
What's a cheese curd?
How about
yeah, there we go. Now we're talking my language.
Less than a half hour away until we kick it off on ABC. It'll be Virginia and Miami. You know, Homer's been able to step in for Mark Walton and give him plenty. Mercer and Alabama. You see Calvin Ridley there. That'll be on the SEC Network. Monroe and Auburn on ESPN2. Texas and West Virginia. Will Greer looks as if, hard to tell from that shot, looks as if the rain might have let up just a little bit. AT&T Field Pass providing fans with a look at that Miami defense. How about the Hurricanes, 9-0 for the first time since the 2002 season. Played for the national championship that year as well. You look at this Miami defense, they have forced 4 turnovers in 4 straight games. You had a couple of teams in there, Virginia Tech and Notre Dame, that didn't turn the ball over much, at least until they saw the Canes in the turnover chain. Only 13 touchdowns allowed. That's top 4 in the country for Manny Diaz's defense, and they get after the quarterback as well. 33 sacks.
The turnover chain, it's been fun, but it's also been contagious. These players are really feeding off of Manny Diaz. The whole symbolic approach with those turnovers.
Manny's dad used to be the mayor of Miami. If his dad had had that many good ideas, that made him emperor. Here's Mark Rick with Holly Rowe.
Well, Coach, after all of the hype and excitement, and this place was crazy against Notre Dame, what have you seen in practice, meetings, these moments leading up to the game that lets you know your team's turned the page for Virginia?
Well, I see a good focus. I see everybody doing their job. You know, one thing about football is when you start turning on the tape of the next opponent, you see the new challenge and you forget about what happened in the past. And you know there's a lot of work to be done, you know, this week, and I thought everybody did a good job.
It's an early game, a noon kickoff. What sense do you have that your kids will be ready to go early for this?
Well, we practice at 10 o'clock every morning, so early mornings are good for us.
I think they're good for your fans. The parking lot's crazy already, and it's about 9:30, so good to see you, Coach.
Thank you.
10 o'clock, seriously?
Yeah.
Get out there and get on the field at 7. 6, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Michael Jackson has 3 picks in the last 4.
And one of the things I want to say about Mark Richt, he's a great football coach, but he's one of the great people in college football.
Yeah, it's very
Mark
true.
Richt.
I think Michael Jackson there, that corner, maybe one of the top corners in the entire country with the long arms, big physical corner. Michael Pinckney is another great linebacker. This team has a lot of the intangibles you're looking for, Des, and a great defense.
Is that Shaq Quarterman? Yeah, Shaq Quarterman right there. You know, he's a cerebral guy, very smart. You know, I think it's high praise when they can compare you to a guy like Jonathan Vilma.
Yeah.
They liken him to Jonathan Vilma, so you know he brings a lot to the defense, mentally and physically.
Remember back in the offseason when we were wondering about Miami's offense, and then Mark Walton got hurt, and look what Travis Homer did against Notre Dame last week.
Yeah, everybody panicked when Walton went down, and Homer, I think, in the last 2 weeks really has shown how dynamic he can be. Runs with a physicality. You know, he's a special teams guy before he became the tailback, so he runs angry.
And Coach Kelly said he's one of the fastest men on the field he's seen.
Yeah.
There's Bronco Mendenhall, whose team has struggled a bit the last few weeks. Offense really struggled. Planning to make some changes on offense today, so see if the turnover chain guys are ready for the wrinkles. The Virginia defense has played pretty well. They've got some veteran guys like Micah Kaiser.
Look at Kaiser, 106 tackles on the year. They move him around. He does a lot of different things for the Cavs. He can rush the quarterback on 3rd downs. They blitz him, turn him loose. He's a good player.
There's the all-time leading tackler at the University of Virginia, Mr. Jefferson's University, Quinn Blanding.
Yeah. And a team like this, you know, you could save your season before the Virginia Tech game by trying to go to Miami and ruin theirs.
Exactly.
On ESPN2 at noon, kicking off in about 22 minutes, Chris Budden with Gus Malzahn.
Coach, you talk about the need to play with championship urgency. What does that look like today against ULM?
Well, we played our best game last week. We got to carry that over. I don't want a fall off. I want us to play good, sound football. We've had a great week of practice, and I expect our guys to come out ready to play.
How do you continue to build momentum off of that Georgia game?
Well, I mean, anytime you play like that, that gives you a lot of confidence moving forward, and it shows the level you can play at, and we got to continue that.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you.
Gus and the Tigers taking on Louisiana Monroe. Jarrett Stidham has just continued to grow and improve over the course of the season.
One of the things these coaches worry about most, injuries before Alabama. Don't get hurt, and
especially against UL Monroe.
Yeah,
exactly.
Mackerel.
There's Ryan Davis, one of the targets for Jarrett Stidham. And as we said about Jalen Hurts, you might want to take a quick look at Stidham and some of the guys, too. Put some points on the board and have a seat.
They're on like a 4-week run of really starting to find their identity and their groove offensively. We know about Derek Brown and that defensive line. Kevin Steele, keep bringing him up. People need to recognize the job that he has done. He's been all over the SEC. And right now, we're doing an amazing job for Gus Malzahn.
Jeff Holland, disruptive. Leads a team with 12 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, plays with just a high energy, a motor that keeps going and going.
He absolutely destroyed that Georgia offensive line. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff in Tuscaloosa. Cole Kubelik with Nick Saban.
Coach Saban, I know the structure of the defense you faced last week a little bit similar to this Mercer defense. Does that help you from a carryover perspective?
Well, these guys play a little bit more 3-4 all the time, a little bit of field under. Mississippi State was a lot more multiple. These guys do a nice job of dropping 8 guys and trying to take big plays away. So controlling the line of scrimmage is going to be the most important thing in the game.
I know you guys have been awful beat up this season. Are there any injury updates as you head into this game?
Not really. I think everybody sort of knows who's out and who's in, and no surprises. So good opportunity for some other guys to go out and show how they can execute.
Thank you very much, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Scores of dozens there in the background. It must have been nice and early.
That was during the walk of the field, right? Damian Harris averaging more than 8 yards per carry. Damian hasn't gotten a lot of carries. They spread the wealth in the backfield.
One of the most underrated, underappreciated players in the country. All the talk about Scarborough and all these other backs, Najee Harris, all 34 does is go out and get over 1,000 yards, run physical, Calvin Ridley, as Lee said, stay healthy against Mercer. They'll need him next week in a big way.
And Rashaan Evans playing his final game at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Played his high school ball at Auburn. Dad was an Auburn guy. Yeah. It'll be a big game for him next week. Need to keep him healthy. And Minka's got a different kind of headgear on to try to make sure he's as healthy as possible next week. Right?
Yes, he's not taking off that hat and trading in for a helmet. He's going to stay on the sideline. Next week, the Iron Bowl, big week. They want to make sure that Minka Fitzpatrick is healthy for that one.
Noon on the SEC Network. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff in Morgantown. Texas and West Virginia. Will Greer's had a sensational year. Bear has been saying that number smells a little bit tight. Taking this field goal or so.
Just the fact that a couple Texas players made some comments publicly, if there was any chance of them being able to go on the road and win, some of the stereotypes and comments that they made about the West Virginia crowd.
I think the only one I saw attributed, I want to say Brecken Hager, who referenced a previous trip to Morgantown, and you know. You know, I'm not even going to use it.
No, you don't need to use it.
That bad, but I don't want to go there.
But if you're Dana Holgorsen, it's perfect.
Yeah, Dana owned it, and then he's going to use it to rile him up against Shane Buechele, both quarterbacks still a little banged up for Texas, and Colin Johnson, who leads the team.
Make it a little chippy. Make it a little chippy there.
It's okay.
Yeah.
This time of year, you want
exactly. I like chippy.
West Virginia goes to Norman next week, too.
And don't forget, West Virginia is still in the mix to try to get in the Big 12 championship game, depending on how they do in Norman and what else happens.
So the weather seems a little more manageable though. Yeah. Before it was like a downpour earlier.
Coca-Cola Zero Sugar counting us down to kickoff in Philadelphia. UCF and Scott Frost taking on Temple. Best start in school history. Is a guy who has been the subject of a lot of coaching talk right now. And they've done, man, what a job they've done on offense. They're dynamic on offense.
They really are. He's done a good job of bringing that Oregon offense in and giving it a little twist, continuing to grow.
Well, look at that. We know in the past that both Wisconsin and Michigan headgear has been on. So which way will Coach go today? And speaking of Coach, a guy who's had some experience as a coach a couple of times on the small screen and the big one. Craig T. Nelson will be our celebrity guest.
We don't need a real coach because we've got the coach here. What was it like playing one for 9 seasons? Give me the biggest takeaway.
Oh, it was great. You know, I got a chance to graduate all these kind of people.
You did, didn't you?
Especially the ones in the pajamas.
Now, you were also Mr. Incredible's voice. So what's it like to be Mr. Incredible in real life?
Well, it's kind of like this.
Okay, people are cheering for you all the time.
I get a chance to impress my grandkids and my great-grandkids.
And at the end of the day, that's all it's about. All right, good luck with your picks today, all right?
Thank you.
Craig T. Nelson, his picks are coming up. He's going to join Reese. Yeah, Des. Bye. We'll see you. Thank you so much. College Game Day, plenty more coming your way. Mr. Incredible. He's already getting his cheers.
Live in Camp Randall Stadium, Wisconsin trotting back to the locker room to get ready for this showdown against Michigan. And there's Big Blue all dressed in white. A Big Ten showdown coming in Camp Randall.
College Game Day is built by the Home Depot. More saving, more doing. And in part by Chevy, the only brand to earn J.D. Power Dependability Awards for cars, trucks, and SUVs. 2 years in a row.
Well, we got a great day of football coming up. Craig T. Nelson already up here working the crowd in just a little bit. Virginia and Miami starts on ABC at noon. Tonight, Herbie and the fellows will be calling UCLA and USC. The battle for the victory bell. Game Day check down some news and notes. Shane Buechele will start for Texas and West Virginia. Comes up at noon. Sam Ehlinger will see some playing time. See Christian Miller out since week 1. They're hoping to get him back, one of the better pass rushers for Alabama. You see Arizona, Oregon. And you also have Josh Allen's going to be a game-time decision for Wyoming against Fresno. What about some Superdog standing?
Oh, man.
Come on.
I haven't won in weeks.
Are you kidding me? Coach, you're 1 point ahead of me?
I got a good one this week. I feel better.
Do you really?
I do, too. I had the worst bad beat of the year last year. Give me your winner right here.
I got Navy against Notre Dame. We talked about this game throughout the show, and I think because Notre Dame's coming off a big loss, they might be a little sluggish, and we already talked about how Navy's not going to give you a lot of opportunities. You're not going to get a lot of possessions, so this one may stay kind of close. So shout out to Bobby the bus driver and my guy Tim Hendricks, the trooper. I hope your Navy's team come through.
You're getting 18 there, Des. That's a risky. I like that. I'm going with 10.5 and UAB. Not only can they keep it close, I think they can win the game outright. Florida's going to Felipe Franks.
Ooh.
How interested is Florida in playing UAB?
Wow.
Meanwhile, UAB's having a great year.
How about Vandy? Vandy's 8.5-point underdog against Missouri. The reason I picked Vandy, they beat Missouri the last time they played in Nashville. Do you know that? Your hometown?
Yeah.
Vandy, upset.
Wow, that's a gutsy one.
You want to see gutsy? I'm going with the beef. Oregon State against Arizona State, getting a touchdown at home. Now, after what Colorado State did to me last week against Boise State, I almost retired from making these picks. But I'm going to go with Oregon State, get a conference win the game in Corvallis, where it won't be as pleasant as it is in Tempe, I'm sure. Saturday Selections brought to you by Chevrolet, and we always enjoy having a guest picker join us. How about Craig T. Nelson, who has plenty of experience coaching. Coach at Minnesota State. You know, he's in the Incredibles 2 coming out next summer. He'll be the voice of Mr. Incredible. Coach on the Smash Show Coach. Where he
Watch this. Look at what my guy did last week. Look at my guy right there. This is what you got to shoot for. You got to shoot for that.
Mr. Incredible might be A-Rod.
Tim McGraw.
Yeah, right. A-Rod.
Hey, Craig T. Nelson is with us. Hey, just for you, you're the only one that gets to pick this. Minnesota State and West Texas today. You got a game?
Oh, well, you got to go with Minnesota State. Are they playing? I should be there.
They play anymore.
If they're playing, I should be there. That means Luther's coaching, and you know
that's a problem. That's a problem.
Hey, the most played rivalry in college football is Lehigh and Lafayette. Who wins this one? Got a lot on the line today.
A lot on the line for Lafayette. I think Lehigh is going to pull off the victory. A close one, but I'm going with Lehigh.
Lehigh?
Yeah, Lehigh.
Are they a college?
They are. Rumor has it.
Yeah, I got a Vandy. Yeah. I got Vandy.
Good.
My granddaughter, Juliana, is married to Casey, a Lehigh player. That's reason enough. Lehigh.
I'm going with Lehigh myself because of Casey.
Good.
I like that. I like that right there. Go Lehigh.
In the Ivy League, you know, Yale can win the Ivy outright for the first time since 1980. They take on Harvard.
Yeah.
Harvard would love to spoil Yale's opportunity to win it outright, so I'm going with Harvard with an upset.
Oh, okay.
Harvard over Yale.
Yeah, I picked Yale.
You got Yale?
Yeah, I think they're going to outthink them.
Really?
Yes.
Nice pick.
Thanks. And by the way, I know Juliana.
You have nothing there.
He said he knows Juliana.
Yale, 8-1, make it 9-1.
I like that. I think Yale. You know, we did game day there a few years ago.
Yeah.
Harvard was on fire, not this year. I'm going Yale.
Okay.
Really?
Yes,
let's go to the Big
All
Ten
right.
now. What about Purdue and Iowa? Iowa up and down the last couple of weeks.
I know, up and down. I think they'll be up. Just because they're at home, I'm going to pick the Hawkeyes by 3
all the
points.
way.
Yeah, you got the Hawkeyes too?
Yeah, totally. And
course.
Hayden Fry is going to be watching. Yeah, Iowa.
Iowa big.
Yeah.
Iowa home field. Ask Ohio State.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a big game.
Yeah.
That was neat.
Dangerous and Kinnick. I got Iowa.
And what about the game? Florida Atlantic, Lane Kiffin against Butch Davis. Owls can get a spot. Conference USA title game. Who wins it?
Too much offense. I'm going FAU. Lane Kiffin's a brilliant coach.
Yeah.
They'll probably run the score up on FIU. He'll probably enjoy that.
Yeah, I will. And he's going to go back to USC. So there you go.
Oh, really? Breaking news here, straight from LA.
News. Yeah. I talked to him just before we got here.
Okay, Kiffin beats Davis big. He big time.
Well, he's got such great balance for that offense, and I think he likes to build up in the hype of this game, and it's usually where he does his best job of getting his team ready to play. I got FAU big.
All right, everybody picking FAU. Happy birthday a day late anyway, Butch. Nobody's picking you anyway, I guess. All right, what about Texas and West Virginia?
Will Greer, fantastic season. Mountaineers are very tough at home. I'm going West Virginia.
Mountaineers?
Mountaineers, yeah.
Yeah, you got to go with the Mountaineers. They're survivalists. I think they're going to last. Coach, what do you think?
Anything you say. Anything he says. What I care.
I'm going with whatever he says.
What he said.
I got my own way of picking.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed you have this way.
I'm going to use it.
What's our Superdog records? It work as well as anything. TCU and Texas Tech?
Oh, yeah. TCU's without Kenny Hill. They're starting quarterback. They got a freshman today, Sean Robinson, starting for them. So I'm going with the Red Raiders of Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. Yeah, I got TCU there. Okay. You know, I just like the initials. I like how they flow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not so fast, Coach. Not so fast.
Yeah.
TCU beat them 82-27 a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Payback.
Look at his cheat sheet. Look at his cheat sheet.
A couple of years ago.
Look at that cheat sheet.
A couple of years ago.
TC, Texas Tech.
I'm going with I like the TCU too. I'm just going to go with that.
Right,
yeah, it just rolls right off.
I think an important game for them as they try to get into the Big 12 championship game in the ACC. What about North Carolina State and Wake?
I'm going with the Wolfpack. Too much defense. Bradley Chubb and that crew. I'm going Wolfpack. Big.
Yeah, Wake Forest for me.
Okay.
Wake Forest. Yeah. How do you know? You ain't got nothing on that sheet.
I looked at them beforehand. You know, I do my homework.
Yeah. Okay.
They told me. And apparently changed your mind. You see the graphic?
Yeah.
I did. Right now.
Not so fast for the second time. North Carolina State's beaten them 3 times in a row. North Carolina State upset.
North Carolina State, I'm going to go with Wake Forest.
Yeah,
because I was feeling that, and even though they put that graphic up, give me Wake Forest. I'll be the only one to pick them.
And also that because Juliana goes there.
Exactly. Exactly.
I didn't check the latest. That Wake was favored, small favorite, at least late yesterday.
Wow.
Kirk's not going to make a pick on this one because he's calling it. What about UCLA and USC?
I like the Trojans because they're running the ball better now with Ronald Jones. So I like USC in this one. The close game.
Yeah, I think Sam Darnold's going to really have a great game. Rosen's coming off that concussion protocol thing. And I love USC. I like the running game now.
You like the uniforms? You like the look?
Totally. And I like the fight song. And I love the horse.
That was a good job. Terrific. Congratulations. USC's finally playing like some of us thought they would.
Yeah.
Big,
exactly.
Big time. Big.
Yep. I can't wait to see those two quarterbacks go head-to-head. You mentioned Rosen.
Oh, I forgot you couldn't.
Can't.
That's going to be the big one. Kirk will have that one on ABC tonight. But coming up in just a few minutes, Michigan and Wisconsin. And it is the phrase that has been used at every turn. If they run the table. Wisconsin knows what's in front of them and the opportunity they have against Michigan. But the Wolverines plan on being something other than a place setting in a Badger buffet.
We know how good of a team this is coming in, and I think, you know, kind of redemption is at stake from last year.
And I know that it's going to be a wild atmosphere, and we got to make that crowd our crowd. They're a top 5 team, so you can't overlook one of the best teams in the country.
It's November, and it's where teams separate themselves, so we have to be, you know, on our A game at all times.
We're getting hot at the right time. Sometimes that's all it takes for a team, and we're really feeding off that. We know that we have to win this week in order for the Big Ten Championship. If we take care of business, I think we prove that we belong in the playoff.
What's the wind chill? Wind chill.
The stakes are set. Coach is trying to get the wind chill to figure out exactly how to make this pick.
I forgot.
Listen, I don't need to know the wind chill. I've been waiting for this the whole time I've been on this stage because no one up here loves the state of Wisconsin the way I do.
Oh, boy.
And I've been wanting to say, go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go! Look at the Packer fans out here. Love this crowd. This is my type of crowd.
Cheese curds.
Cheese curds. I'm just saying, cheese heads, cheese curds. Love the Packers. Pick Wisconsin to win the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And they still can win once they lose today to Michigan. They still can win the Big Ten. I'm going Big Blue.
Oh, man.
I'm just saying.
She's a flip-flop to both ways. I love Wisconsin and Michigan's winning.
I'll hurry here because I can't wait to see between the two of these guys what's going on. I think it's low scoring, and regardless of the weather, it's two great defenses. I think it's, as David said earlier, like that 17-14 game. You might see defensive scores in this game. I think Michigan has been improving the last couple weeks with Brandon Peters, but it's in Madison. It's hard to imagine Wisconsin losing at home. Give me Wisconsin, low-scoring game.
Now, you're next.
Who you got, Coach?
Well, I gotta go with my grandparents. You know, just a second. My great-grandfather is from Ettrick, Wisconsin, which is just a little west of Baraboo, okay?
Yeah.
Where Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus was founded.
Of course.
So I am on with Wisconsin.
All right.
All right, Coach.
What do you got, LC?
Listen, first of all, it's 29 degrees outside.
Yeah.
The wind chill factor is 18. I have two options. I can put on a huge gold old Michigan helmet.
Oh, yeah.
Or I can put a warm, fuzzy Bucky head.
We call that maize.
I'm not crazy. Give me Bucky.
What the hell is happening to our business? What happened to our business? I was taking him serious for a long time. This is amazing. And it doesn't even look like a Wolverine. What is that?
With all due respect to you, Lee Corso has all the right moves.
Oh, he does.
Greg T. Nelson, thank you so much for being with us. That was really
guys.
fun.
Thank
Coach
you.
is on. Bucky will see. Enjoy your day of football. Or might be surprised it's just around the corner.
That was fun.